Welcome everybody to episode 173 of Bloody Thumbs Podcast. As always, what's going on to you?
I was saying 173.
Episode 173. I am Splitter47 as always, joined by my co-host extraordinaire, CH Goran.
Oh hey, howdy.
Everything going good with you, sir? How you doing today?
Everything is going wonderful for me today, and I'm especially happy that the game industry has come to a very good close this year. Or for most of the releases, there's probably a few things here or there that haven't been released, but looking back on the year, I'm very, very happy that we had a very strong year.
Primarily, that has been my consensus as well. There's been a lot of great games that came out this year. A lot of them were, for the most part, really, really fantastic. I'm really glad that I got to play them and purchase them. I know there's still a couple of other games on the side, mainly some downloadable games that I would love to play. I want to play, as we talked about. I want to play Soma, and then I want to play. I want to play Yoshi's Woolly World because I love Yoshi and anything Yoshi. So that'll be on my list later this year. If I get to play it, I want to play some that new Yoshi game for the Wii U.
I did watch Soma as a story in the story segments of Soma in a YouTube video. Just compressed all of the. I'm still going through it, but I'm cool. I'm very surprised at how good Soma is in terms of how well written it is, as well as asking a lot of questions about perceptions of humanity that doesn't have a very straightforward answer for anything. It's really it really is interpretive to the player, but it doesn't exactly. It's interesting. It's interesting because it asks the player a lot of questions, but the questions do not feedback into how the game turns out in terms of the story. So it's just so it's not like Telltale games where your morality will affect things. It's more like oh shoot. Well, it really is hard to think of anything right now.
Honestly, that's been mainly the consensus of that game as well. I've been kind of straying a little bit from watching anything because I know I'm gonna buy it and play it. It's just kind of a matter of when. I've already been kind of working towards going through the new Bloodborne DLC. I got to stream that last week a few times. The new Bloodborne DLC. I really haven't made much progress because the only progress I ever consider it being very big is when you find another save point or another area where you can kind of lay down and gather your thoughts on the it's a little checkpoint, as you say, from those either the bonfires compared to the Dark Souls, and also like the lamps in Bloodborne, considered a nice little checkpoint. So that's as much progress as I made because I've been stuck on this boss for a while, and I don't have PlayStation Plus. I can't really call anyone to play online with me, so that kind of makes it a little tougher. The AI is not the greatest when you call like other companions in the game when you have enough like. Items when you have enough items in the game in order to call somebody, because once you run out of certain like insight is what you can use in the game to be able to call for extra help. Like the AI character is kind of not good, so he always end up getting he's always getting killed the first before you even make it to the boss. He's already getting killed. He's always fighting other enemies. Like, what are you doing? Follow me. Let's go. You haven't gotten to the boss and you're already at half health.
There is that. So, from my experience in Dark Souls, the first one, I have not played Scholar of the First Sins. I have not played Bloodborne.
Right.
So, in Dark Souls, the AI was all right.
Right.
And when you'd summon them, like for instance, Solara Solaire in, let's say Solaris, the Russian film. Like, what the hell am I doing? Like, George Clooney ain't in here.
That's an obscure reference there.
I was about to talk about some Russian avant-garde films that we have, like Battleship Potemkin, but I don't think a lot of our viewers would be appreciative of that.
Right.
So are you saying it's more difficult than that?
Difficult in terms of like what's
how useful they are.
Oh, well, they're just kind of there, honestly. Like it's you don't really get that same feeling as you get with someone who's as skilled maybe as you are in Bloodborne. They're just kind of like they're your standard AI, but it's just it just you come across.
I'm pretty sure I'll be worse than the standard AI in Bloodborne. Just don't. You said as you are, and I assume you mean like an actual competent person, not me, because I just feel like, am I supposed to roll over here? No, you rolled off the entire map, and you're dead. Okay, now I'm all alone. Thanks.
I mean, honestly, prior to getting into this DLC, I haven't played Bloodborne in at least over a couple of months since it's come out, and I've beaten it. So when I first loaded up the DLC, I was a little overwhelmed. Like it got to the point where it's been so long that I played, I forgot how to heal. I forgot how to heal, but give me credit because the heal button is so one of the most obscure and kind of weird placings in a game, because the game has certain controls and mechanics.
Hello.
Oh no, we lost the edge. Let me call you back. Oh no. So the game mechanics are so obscure. You hear me now, CH?
I'm sorry. I just dropped out. I have no idea. Freaking Belkin. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It said that I lost your call, but I was still streaming, so I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it's up and down.
I was pretty much saying that it was a little bit of a learning curve. It's just trying to remember how to play the game again, because the heal button was so kind of one of the most obscure placings for any kind of game, but it works for the control type that you're going with, because it's very combat heavy.
Is it circle?
It's the triangle button for PS4.
It's a triangle button?
It'll be like the Y equivalent to the Xbox. That's the heal button.
Yeah, but why in the world? Okay, that's weird, because it just like for Dark Souls, the vials,
right?
The whatever the healing potions that you have are X or square. That made good sense, but just triangle?
Yeah, it is weird, but when you play the game and get used to the controls, you kind of get used to it, and then when you think about it some more, it kind of makes sense, because there's a lot of high stakes situations where you have to act quick on your feet, and you have to evade and dodge a lot of enemies, and I could see that button being pretty useful compared to the other buttons you have. I'm trying to remember what the other ones do on the side. I know that the circle is to evade, or you can roll or evade. Kind of like it's kind of like sidestep kind of action. Depending on how you press it, is either like a roll, or you could do like a quick sidestep backwards and forwards to evade attacks. And I believe the square button, which is the X equivalent to the Xbox, is to use an item, and then the X is just to interact with certain things, like open a door or item, or read certain writings on the wall, or just kind of comments people write down when you play online. Much similar. A lot of mechanics are still the same and carry over to Bloodborne, but a lot of the way you play it is more offensive than defensive compared to Dark Souls.
Right.
Because you're always very on the defense. You always have especially if you have a kind of like a shield type character, which is, I don't know why you wouldn't, because the shields are very very vital in Dark Souls. I mean, I don't know how people play with no armor at all.
Yeah, I've heard playing Dark Souls. It's like, okay, it's a very not slower paced game, but certainly more methodical in terms of like the flow of combat. Like, okay, I gotta wait for this guy to hit my shield, then I hit him back, like right when he's flinched, or like even I could riposte and immediately like get a really big damage into him. And then with Bloodborne, it's I need to attack fast. I need to keep going on the offensive. guns are used for stunning or like at the right time to get in close and destroy them rather than kind of waiting for that long.
Yeah, the guns are kind of like parry in a way. If you hit the gun button at the right time, it'll stun an enemy so that you can get like a nice animation where it stabs them really hard, and then it takes a good chunk of their life. Much like Dark Souls, when you do the successful blocking of like on your shield or something, and then that will just kind of put this enemy into an animation where they kind of like the weapon they use or the arm that they're using you to attack, kind of they go backwards like they're about to fall, and like it's slow motion, and then that's when you do that like real quick heavy attack, and like give them a nice shank in the chest, and then that usually does more damage than anything else. Just very similar to like attacks from the back, and you just give them a backstab, and that does a good amount of damage. But yeah, I mean, very much similar to Dark Souls, but more offensive and still methodical, but very more offensive. Because the mechanic in the Bloodborne is very similar, but also very different. Because whenever you get attacked by an enemy, you have the ability to regain what you've been attacked. Like if you have 100% health and you get hit by an enemy and it takes you down to 70, you have the ability to regain your health back by quickly attacking the enemy real quick, and then you gain it back. But at the same time, you also gotta be careful not to start spamming, because they'll start going into their crazy animation. So it's like it's kind of like a risk to go on the offensive, but you have to go on the offensive. So very it's a very challenging
May I
game.
ask you something?
Yes, sir.
Have you completed the DLC of the old Hunters?
I have not. I haven't even gone past the first boss.
Oof.
I'll get to it. I need to play more, and I'm relatively getting into the groove of how I play, but it's still kind of, I'm still getting over the hump. It's the first boss I encountered. I haven't figured out another alternative to kind of other place to check out. I think that's really the only other place I can really go to at this point. But I've just kind of been skulking around and trying to find maybe another alternative route besides that boss. But I'm thinking that's probably the only route I have at this point. But we'll see. I mean, they use some of the assets from the main game, but they also change it up a bit. It's more like a very
cool.
It has more. You go to the same kind of areas, but it's like an alternative area to what you've played in the main Bloodborne game. It's more deserty kind of environment, and you also fight other hunters as well. So they have the same abilities as you do. They have guns, and they have their quick ability to duck and dive, and they have these crazy, insane weapons. More weapons implemented in this DLC, which I am very much looking forward to trying out some more. The only problem is when you do get these new weapons, you don't really get the full benefits, because you have to invest some time in order to get items within the game in order to upgrade them to make any kind of use or do any kind of damage to some of these tougher enemies. So I've still been sticking with the same amount of weapons that I had originally. So we'll have to see. I have to give it more time. I've only been playing it for about 2 hours, but I'll get to it. I'll get to advancing over time. That's how I was with Bloodborne. I got to a point where I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah.
For a couple hours, and then I just end up getting it. It just takes time. It's a very trial and error kind of game. A lot of it just has to do, especially with the bosses, a lot of it has to do with you anticipating their attacks and hopefully being able to evade them in time. A lot of it's just remembering more of their attack patterns, but it's not as predictable as maybe Dark Souls is, because they definitely have their phases where they go into like this definitely crazy, more frenzied mode, where they just like their attacks are sometimes so unpredictable, and their open windows for attack is so small that you have to be very patient too, and also very ferocious on your attacks. Very fantastic game. I definitely would say it's definitely one of the best PS4 exclusives at this point.
Oh yeah.
That's all they got really, besides like maybe Uncharted, but this hasn't come out yet unless you want to get into the Uncharted collection. But as it's crazy, I think that's what they should be doing, either PlayStation or Sony, rather than making a game in-house. Just have like a third party. I mean that's probably like one of the main appeals maybe for the PS4 is Bloodborne. Got a lot of heat Positive Heat compared to like the Order 1886, and I was going to be talking about that game, and since it came out, and I bought it for $10, so I haven't really played too much of it.
You haven't watched too much of it, I can assume.
It's a really good looking game. Don't get me wrong, but I haven't
it looks
played
beautiful.
Yeah, I haven't played enough of it to really give me my full judgment. But I'll definitely check out more of it. I want to get into it some more. I still got to finish Metal Gear Solid. I haven't even touched that game either.
Jesus, dude,
And Fallout.
Oh my God,
Too much games.
You have, thank goodness you have a month, because I think that'll be probably the right amount of time to get through both those games.
Yeah, I'll have a month off before I start a new job, so that'll be my month vacation. So I'll have some time to delve into all these games. I'm probably gonna end up streaming on a daily basis at this rate, just to kind of keep me somewhat entertained. Because I don't know what I'll be doing for that whole month. I may just get bored after the first week and want to probably go back to work.
I depending. Okay, so Fallout, that's a maybe, but Metal Gear Solid 5, well, it's also a maybe. But I think there's enough for both that you'll have.
I'll have plenty of time I'll have plenty of time with Bloodborne, that's for sure. At the rate I'm going, like, I take my time. I don't really try to rush it, because that game can be. I can't play that game in too many doses, because it would take a wear on you. I don't know how people play it for more than like 2 hours, because it's such a draining game, and it's such a very methodical and very stressing kind of game, because a lot of it just has to do with you having to find the next checkpoint, and hopefully you don't and hopefully you don't die before you get to that checkpoint. But
if it's a From Software game, you're not going to be taking it easy. Like,
it's very trial and error. It's just you'll end up seeing a lot of the same areas and fighting the same enemies, but you'll always the thing that I like the most is that even though you do explore the same areas, because you always die and go back to the original spawn point. The cool thing about it is you'll end up knowing that area so well, like the back of your hand. By the time you get to the next checkpoint, that it's not too bad, because you'll know what to expect when you first start off Bloodborne and you go into like a new area. You're like just so on the edge. You're like walking so slow, looking around you in every corner, just being afraid. I'm so afraid to go into a new area because I don't know what to expect. And then once I've been to that area like 20 times because I've died so many times, I mean, I'm like it's like clockwork. You know what to go. Sometimes it's just better to run instead of fight enemies, because it take you longer to get there, and just so many things in place that you just always have your own kind of strategy depending on how you want to go about it. Either you want to grind, or you just kind of want to get to the next area, which is I just kind of been taking my time. We'll see. Apparently, this boss that I've been struggling on is it has to do with like a weapon item I have, and it's like my best weapon. And if I have that weapon equipped, that boss gets really more unpredictable and very crazy. So if I have to switch up to like a lower stat weapon that I have compared to the one I'm equipping now, that has to tie with him, and it's very crazy. I'll have to see where we go from there. But I have been streaming it on my Twitch channel. I'll leave it on the link below. I've been streaming some of that and trying to get through Fallout. I just I hit a wall with Fallout. I just have been trying to. I gave it some breathing room. I was playing a little bit a few days ago, so I'll give it another shot. See where we go from there.
I heard it gets better and worse depending on who you ask in terms of how it progresses, so I'm interested in trying to complete it. But
main story so far is not really doing it for me. Maybe depending on the choices I made. It's so crazy to think what could occur if you kill certain characters off and end like a quest timeline. I almost did that, but I just kind of wanted to see things through at this point, because it just got to a weird point where I just felt like, what is this all for now at this point? It's just kind of like the original, like the beginning had so much promise, and also like the motivations changed midway, and I just feel like it came a long way from the beginning, and I don't know where I want to go from here at this point, and I just kind of felt like and then ended up joining a faction that I had even no choice, and I was kind of like I was very much in the middle. I really didn't say yes, I really didn't say no, and I ended up still joining this faction at this point. And it's like, what am I doing here? I didn't say yes, I didn't say no. Give me some time.
You do kind of roll into it where it's like either if you don't support it, then you are completely all for the extinction of that entire group.
Right, and I got. And it also affects, like, it really, I mean, it kind of can affect your relationship with, like, another faction, too. I know I ended up going into this quest where both factions that I'm very buddy with, I ended up fighting each other. It was, like, the easiest quest ever because no one was shooting at me. I didn't have to shoot anything. I just kind of was, I wanted to avoid shooting either faction because if I do, you know, their trust is going to end up losing. I'm gonna end up losing the trust completely.
We just like the one guy in the middle of the battlefield, like not doing anything, just like standing and looking at everyone as like the slaughter was going around. It's like, well done, Splinter. You've helped us very, very well. It's like, I didn't do too much, guys, but thank you very much.
No, I streamed that portion. If anyone wants to see it, it was like It was the most uneventful experience I've ever had in my life because it was like no one was shooting at me. I wasn't shooting at anybody. It was like the most underwhelming shootout I've ever been a part of in a game, and I completed that whole quest just by kind of walking through the wasteland and going in through a building and not shooting anything but turrets. That's all I did. That's all I did. I just shot a bunch of turrets, and then that was it. And then into that quest, I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. Everyone shot each other, and the problem is with like certain things, you know, nobody ends up getting killed. Uh-oh. I ended up losing CH. He'll be back with us in just a moment. Maybe you'll have to give him another call. Give him another call. Yeah. Hello.
Hi, how you doing there? I freaking hate my service provider.
No worries, man. Just want to make sure you're still there. Frankly enough, I have not had any issues with mine, fortunately. So that's why I've been able to stream. That's why I'm very excited to be able to stream on a daily basis when I'm off for that whole month. So I'm very excited.
Good on you, man. I have no reason that maybe I got too many tabs open. I've got several news tabs open right now.
Too many tabs. Many tabs.
That might be my theme song. So how about we?
But that's Fallout. But that's Fallout for me.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Game of the Year material personally for me. It has some good ideas. The gameplay is definitely solid. A lot more crisper and cleaner than the previous Fallout games. But the story, much like many Bethesda games, and the main story is not doing it too much for me. Not even the side quests. Some of them are not doing it too much for me. I thought it was just me, maybe not being in the best of moods.
Right.
But there's some good parts. There's some bad parts. It's a little a little bit.
You're trying to be fair, and you're trying not to have bias going into it. Just like, oh well, I didn't really think Fallout 3 was the best.
I am really trying to pick out the good parts and not speak too much on the bad parts. But honestly, it's really hard to do, and I really wanted to like this game. I mean, I love the previous games. I love Fallout 3 and New Vegas. They weren't perfect games by any stretch of the imagination, but I loved some of the writing and some of the side quests that were in those two games that made it worthwhile to get through to the finale, pretty much the ending of the main story, which the third one was caca, and New Vegas was all right. I didn't mind it. Maybe I like him more because it was in Vegas, and that kind of prepared me to prepare what could be the post-apocalyptic Vegas that we maybe come to see one day, just like that Resident Evil movie. Why am I referencing that? I don't know.
I will assume that is what Vegas looks like when I come there. I'll be researching New Vegas as the map to the stars' homes in terms of understanding geological locations.
Yeah. That's been a little bit of my experience for Fallout. But if you want to check out that firefight I was telling you about, anybody out there, feel free to do so. I should
Is
be
it under your YouTube page?
should be under my YouTube page. I had a nice. I had to cut out some things because Twitch is much like YouTube. Any kind of music that gets played in the game in some way, shape, or form, so it gets muted. So I can't use the footage because they muted the audio, which is kind of it's kind of worse. It's almost the same as deleting it. So
Yeah,
I could only have used so much. I was able to at least salvage some of the video walkthrough that I was able to do without the audio being muted. So most of the stuff was there. I don't recall. I didn't look at the highlight, but I don't recall if that was in there. But I think so. It's one of those weird things where, like I was saying, like I was friends with two factions, and I had to do a quest for one of the factions, and one of the other factions that I'm friends with came in and started shooting up this other guy that was like a quest giver. And he didn't end up dying. He didn't end up dying, surprisingly. So what I had to do was just pretty much walk away from that area they were fighting this whole time, because they don't die, because some of them just kind of like kneel down like they're out of breath and stuff, like they don't die. And then I had to like find an area where I could sit in, and then I had to like wait. I had to put the game on wait so that I can make the time pass by quicker. And then when I came back, he was just like standing there like nothing happened. All right, let's start this quest. Even though he got shot up by other dudes. It's crazy.
Bethesda games are the only games I can really think of where quest givers and big parts of story elements can be distracted, or at least hindered in a way, because of like the actual mechanics of the game.
Right.
Like I can't think of any other game that would do that. It's like even RPGs, like Witcher 3, you can't really do that.
At least
Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect.
Right. At least for some people, I don't know if it's everything. I think I can kill them, that quest giver, but other NPCs can't for some reason. Some of these quest givers or other NPCs are usually always all free game, and I would occasionally do some rampages. I do a quick save and then I do some rampages and see what happens, and a lot of crazy stuff happens. The whole town starts attacking you over at Nuketown and Fallout 3, and I always like to try that out. I don't know. I'm very much play myself in a lot of these games. I don't really go beyond role playing that much. Maybe I should do that more, but I just don't feel it. Don't feel right to me. Blowing up a whole city or shooting up a whole town. It don't feel right to me.
Okay, maybe switching genders or choosing a different race.
Yeah,
like that's understandable. Like, I like to see to change, and to see if people react differently to me, or if I choose different choices from this. Like being a complete dick and like blowing up an entire city just because, like, I'll get a hotel room in this nice area. That's quite a difference.
Yeah, it's tough for me to do that. I know I probably maybe would do it after maybe I've beaten the game or I have nothing else to do and get bored. Maybe I'll do that. Even then, that's kind of a stretch for me. It doesn't feel right. It's not because I think it's morally wrong. It doesn't feel like it was the way that the developers intended. Even though games like GTA always kind of always welcome that in a sense, but it's just, I never really do it that much unless I have to, a part of the main quest line or a side quest. I never really shoot up because it gets kind of boring at some point, shooting up everybody.
BioShock, for instance, it really doesn't make a huge case. It makes very vague cases for harvesting little sisters over saving them. Right,
I never found much benefits to doing what's considered the more evil route or more ominous route in those games. I figured, especially for the first time playing it, maybe playing it the second time I'll make the different choice, but first time going in, I kind of want to get the best experience I can, and also kind of get what the developers were going for. So I never really messed too much around with the game to kind of break it or kind of ruin the flow of it. It's not really my bag. And as Cat is over here playing some Mass Effect 2. I want to play some Mass Effect 2 right now.
Oh, please do, man.
I
I
like
always
I like the little Easter egg when you probe Uranus with Edie's like,
um,
really, Shepard? That's my favorite part.
and then she just like dejected and defeated, just like after when you do it again, she's like probing Uranus. it they have such Bioware has just what I love is not just Bioware, but any developer who can have really fun, entertaining Easter eggs like that. I really love.
Right,
And
right.
one
Like
of
I know that my favorite ones was definitely from IO when they had a lot of good Easter eggs in Hitman. My favorite one I always bring back is the Hitman Blood Money, just with the rats playing poker in the one level, and I think the one level in the Opera House may have been, or one of the levels in I think actually it took place in Vegas. So it was one of the levels there. Just a bunch of rats playing poker. I thought that was pretty funny.
it, it just adds a touch of personality. And with
Yeah, it
Fallout
does.
4, they do have those moments where, one of the probably more popular ones is a bear on the toilet seat, like a teddy bear on the toilet seat with a newspaper. Stuff like that, that's nice, but it feels like there are some Easter eggs and such where that even just like dialogue references that feel like they really took time to say like, okay, we're gonna reference this specifically. And one of the one of the ones recently that I liked is Witcher 3, and the fact that that they even have they have great references to Lord of the Rings. They have great references to what is the Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they have a rabbit outside of a cave that's just like complete. There's a complete bloodshed, and
Yeah,
I really do like that, and I really like the fact when developers take the time to put these Easter eggs in of things that they really like and want to talk about, because that's one of the very interesting things of video games that you can do, and it can be a part of the main quest or the main experience of the game, and not be burdensome to the main experience.
yeah. A lot of the ones that are the best are the ones that, like you said, don't hinder the overall experience or even hinder with the story. It was really a lot of my favorite ones do come from Hitman, because those are the ones that memorable ones. Like the Absolution one was really cool. You got to put on the outfit. It was like I believe it was like a chicken outfit from Blood Money. It was from the New Orleans level, which was like at the time that level was like way ahead of the curve. They had like so many people.
NPCs.
They had so many NPCs on there. Granted, they're all like had the same like 2 or 3 animations, but hey, that ran so smooth. I mean, didn't even have nearly as bad of the frame rate issues as games like Fallout 4 have. It was
No.
like pure. It was so unexpected and pure. It just ran so well for a game that old, and I love also in Absolution that we found out that Kane and Lynch should take place in the same universe as Hitman.
That was actually very nice to see that the voice actor for Lynch came on back to actually record those lines of dialogue, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, although those games, although those games primarily the second one didn't really review too well. I don't know if there's much really. I can't really say there's a lot of fans or mainstream fans of that series primarily. I know that IO has a lot of like love for it, because that's why they put it in the Absolution. But it's just, I know there's a lot of love for that from them, because that's one of their different original IPs that they've kind of expanded their palette from, other than doing Hitman games, which are always never ones that I feel too bored or felt like it was very repetitive on every Hitman game they do. So they always doing something different, and I never feel like they're always, because they always had like a very good time frame from like different from their previous releases. So it's not always a very yearly thing, yearly releases of Hitman, which has always been one of the positive things, that this series is still kind of very popular, and also and also works with this kind of change that they're or kind of current status of how games are made these days. Because a lot of the games now require you to are not just kind of one way to do it and that's it. There's many multiple ways opened up with how do you accomplish missions, and that structure that they've had already set in place from the previous games would just work perfect with this generation of games we got going on now.
Yeah,
and that's like no exception to what they're putting out with the new Hitman game pretty soon.
I do like the fact that Hitman Go and Tomb Raider Go are very
successful as well. I mean, I played Hitman Go. I did a little review on it not too long ago, and I loved it. It was a great mobile game, and it was very true to the nature of how the Hitman games are. And I haven't played Tomb Raider Go, but I've heard some good things about that as well.
I played the Splinter Cell Nokia game.
Right, I remember that.
And I'm sorry?
I remember that.
Yeah, oh my god, I talking about that so long ago, just like the dialogue kind of was reminiscent of it, but oh my gosh, the gameplay was something you had to kind of get through to any of the good stuff. And just like you can only imagine what kind of difficulties the developers had to go through just to try to make that experience for a cell phone.
Right. I know they also have a little subdivision as well. It's cool that we get kind of these little side releases that are kind of give you some time in between like the main console releases of these games. I know Hitman I think they have more than one. I know they have the Hitman Go and they have the Hitman Sniper 2 for the mobile phone. I know that was popular too at the time. At the time Absolution was coming out, because you got to play like a little exclusive
Sniper Elite.
Yeah, exclusive little sniper game when you pre-order Absolution. That was probably like the most fun I've had playing, primarily just a sniper kind of game. It was very, very cool, just the elaborate ways a lot of people played it, and also just a lot of the support they had for it when they were just, giving out rewards and prizes for people trying to get the highest score on that game. I don't know how the hell you do it, but it was just some amazing kind of stuff right there. Mm-hmm. And I know they're doing the same thing with the phone app game as well. They're also doing a lot of prizes and stuff for high scores. I didn't invest too much time on the Hitman Sniper game for the phone, but I had a good time from what I played of it. Mm-hmm. Mobile games are crazy, always crazy big, so they never.
They are.
They never feel like they're really going to go away. There's always going to be something new on the horizon when it comes to these mobile games. But I enjoyed it for what it was, and I mean I like that it didn't have microtransactions, and I paid they're a decent price, like $5 I think, and get a full experience as much as you would on a console for those Hitman games. Good stuff. I wish they.
Speaking of new experiences on the horizon, Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is getting into a second expansion.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. As you may know, I had very much praises over the Hearts of Stone DLC, which I did a nice little review on for the BloodThumbspodcast.com, and also CH's amazing review and commentary of Jessica Jones.
Godlike. I don't know if I would go that far.
It's good stuff, folks. Definitely check it out if you haven't. We've been getting some nice views since since Kat's been helping post some of these articles on Reddit, so it's been getting us as much exposure as we possibly can.
Kat is our guiding angel.
So that's been very good. No, I'm very excited, as you may already know. I'm trying to remember if they announced a date for it. I know that was going to be something probably on the horizon for like 2016, so I can imagine. So I'm very excited for the new expansion. I know we talked about a little bit of kind of the screenshot they showed. It's like just a very vast, open world, much like the Witcher series has always been. We've remarked about how it was very colorful screenshot that they showed. Lots of colors. It seems like something out of like Zelda in a way,
yeah,
right? Like
Wind Waker,
very colorful fantasy.
I mean, it does not look. It looks incredibly vibrant,
right?
In comparison, like even the most brilliantly beautiful places in The Witcher 3 don't look as don't even even compared to this one, because it looks like it. Because even as the article that I'm reading about says it's Toussaint or Toussaint, where it's a land untainted by war. So it certainly shows and certainly gives that impression. It feels like, okay, this is a land that's kind of been allowed to develop without the constant warfare and ravaging of monsters to really affect it. So I wonder if it's going to be more of a dialogue based game, and where combat may not be the biggest factor.
Honestly, I mean, I'd be all for that. I mean, I really love the writing for the series as kind of how I've been trying to play it since the second game. I have not really delved into much from the first Witcher game. I know I've seen footage of it and a lot of Let's Plays on it. It's a very completely different game compared to what we've gotten after The Witcher 2. Very much because I think it's running on the same engine as like Mass Effect 1, so it looks very dated.
Oof.
And but I know the story was really good too. So I mean, if you can get through it, I'm sure you'll really enjoy it. No, I mean, I'd be definitely down for that. I absolutely love the dialogue and the interactions with all these characters, and the lore of The Witcher has always been something that's interested me for a while since I've started playing the games, and got me interested in reading the books. So I'd be more than down to play that kind of game if it was just mainly just all dialogue. I wouldn't even mind if I only got like 10 minutes of actual gameplay of fighting things. I mean, honestly, as much as I love The Witcher 3, I mean, the combat is very competent, but it's not anything that's going to blow your socks off. It's just it's very much there to, get you through maybe the redundancies of having just to listen to a lot of dialogue, but it's just mainly like the catalyst to just kind of get you to enjoying much of the story than anything else, honestly.
I respectfully disagree.
Ooh.
I feel like the combat system. No, it is not it's not the deepest combat system.
Well, yeah.
Of timing, of riposting, of Dark Souls and Bloodborne probably, or the From Software games probably.
Yeah, my standards are kind of high when it comes to gameplay like that, because especially playing Bloodborne is very much a very different experience in a sense, comparatively, at least with the DLC in which I remarked, especially when you fight the frog in the Hearts of Stone DLC, it was very reminiscent of Bloodborne, which I loved, but it's not Bloodborne. But it's very competent enough. I know it is it's varied enough to get you through and enjoy it. I know it's very different too when you play it on a harder difficulty, which I didn't necessarily want to kind of bother with too much. Maybe on a second replay, I probably would do it. Right. But honestly, I go in there for the story primarily, because it's just always been something that's always pulled me in.
Especially with Dark Souls, the focus, not Dark Souls, but just all the From Software games are the player in relation to the world through mechanics, kind of alone. Yeah. Whereas Witcher is all about the role of Geralt's. I was actually thinking about this, where it's in terms of adapted properties, where for the Witcher series, they want you to focus on gray morality and highlighting that by choices which don't have clear-cut answers.
Right.
But they still want you to be tied to the idea of the character of Geralt by having pre-existing relationships and societal connections to him and his role as a Witcher and how that relates to the community. Whereas, instead of a free roam system of, say, for instance, Skyrim, where you can choose whatever faction you want to side with, it's a combination of both for a particular flavor.
Right. There's a lot of ideas in place that I feel like really gel well together. I feel like this wouldn't have worked as well if any other kind of developers had their hands on this. Especially when it comes to morality in games, which I always feel like is never really always greatly touched upon or really done well, especially in video games, especially when the ones that give you a lot of choices. I feel like the choices that you get never have as much of an impact as you want it to be, or they maybe want you to feel in terms of the choices you make. But I feel like the Witchers, since they don't make it as clear cut, they always have a tremendous impact when they do finally hit you in the face. Like, holy shit, this happened because of this.
yeah, and like even games that I love, like the Mass Effect series, they are BioWare for those games, not necessarily for the Dragon Age games. They're more kind of
they're more
binary,
yeah, they're more binary. They're more maybe more
but it's more for the same cause, where it's like you can
yeah.
either be go the good guy route or be the total asshat route of just be like, listen, you're gonna do what I say and you'll damn well like it.
Yeah, they're
Type of like,
a bit more streamlined in a way. But
yeah,
I mean, it can't. I mean, it's not to say it can be bad.
no, not at all.
For it to be streamlined, if that's the kind of direction they want to take with it, and I mean, I'm more for it. I mean, absolutely. I mean, you and I love the Mass Effect series, and that's always kind of been the way it's always been since the first game. Very binary decisions that ultimately lead you to kind of very similar result, but you kind of get more enjoyment out of it due to the choices you make, and also depending on who you speak with and who you take with you. So they're always kind of a different experience, especially in terms of the dialogue options that you get when you take different crew members with you, and they always have something different to say, and definitely how
depending on the area, depending on the characters.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah, they always have something different to say. They always have their 2 cents to offer you when you're on the mission or taking elevator rides in the first game.
One of my favorite side quests of Mass Effect 2 was the Quarian who was accused of stealing from a shop vendor. And I just so happened to have Tali there with me, who's also a Quarian. And she had a lot to say on the subject. And I was like, would this have, would I have perceived this event much differently if I didn't have Tali there? And there's this interesting back and forth between who should I take for the most interesting insight into each event.
Yeah, you always have that thought on the back of your head, but it's also the thing, like, you can never really predict exactly what's going to happen or transpire unless you've played it already, and kind of you don't want to get a different kind of interpretation on the matter by bringing certain crew members with you. So that has always been the most appealing thing about the series as well, with replayability value.
Oh yeah,
and as we said, streamlined decisions like that is not a terrible thing, but it's very refreshing too, not getting a sort of streamlined kind of moral choices, and the ambiguity is a bit more apparent in terms of what you're going to be choosing in The Witcher, which has always been one of the main things as well that's always been appealing to me. Just kind of how it's not always clear cut. It's always very not very black and white in the choices you make, but always it's very gray, and kind of how you want to interpret it as well. And very much Geralt is a very kind of neutral character.
Yes.
And you never get the sense that you have to save the world. It's
not your job.
It's not really your job, because he's kind of out for himself, and also just kind of trying to make a living in a sense.
Got to make that green.
Yeah, because I know that there was war going on in the series. They always brought it up, but it wasn't really the focal point, because it wasn't necessarily our.
It's always on the side.
It was always on the side. It was never necessarily our objective to kind of resolve this, because we're not politicians or anything. We're just The Witcher, and he's always been. He's made it clear too. He's never really he doesn't find politics interesting. He gets bored of it. Clearly, he's very blunt about it, because he's just I'm just The Witcher. I don't know what the hell you guys want with me about the subject.
And it's for me, I find it interesting that I've read a little bit of the Witcher books.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
It is very, very good stuff, and morally gray in a very interestingly different way from even the games. But I like the fact that the games even comment on the idea, because of the inherent nature of the fact that you have to make choices in the game, that Geralt really isn't completely outside of politics, because he still agrees to these jobs that, for whatever reason, even not having an opinion on a political matter that he decides to go to serve, he's still that's still a political stance, and he's doing it for. And whenever I think it was Dijkstra who said that you only tell yourself that you're apathetic to politics in order to maintain the illusion of neutrality.
Yeah, that's all. I remember that line exactly when it was brought up. So
Mm.
very very good stuff, man. I absolutely don't get me wrong. I absolutely love the series, and everything about it is great. I mean, I never once got bored of it. There was always something different. Every side quest felt very different and unique, and it always led you to something interesting. A lot of the side quests even felt like main quests to me in terms of the quality and overall writing, presentation, and performance. It's just all these culmination of things that are very key to what make the main story and a lot of our open world or RPGs in general very important. And it all felt like it was just a collaborative. Everything was spot on everything. My main quest, side quests, even little things was all spot on.
And you know what I'm really looking forward to?
What you looking forward to?
Cyberpunk 2077.
Holy shit.
That's the next game developed by CD Projekt Red, and there's reports. You know what? I'm going to have to, unfortunately, take a small break right now, but I would like to come back to this topic and talk with you about it, because I need to, unfortunately, deal with something right now. I apologize.
No worries. We'll go ahead and then return very shortly, folks. All right, and we're back, ladies and gentlemen, for a quick little break there. So we wanted to get into a little bit about Cyberpunk 2077, right? We got the new upcoming and very highly anticipated game for both of us by CD Projekt Red, the next installment after The Witcher 3.
It is the next installment. It's been teased since January 2013.
Yeah, a long time ago. Jesus.
Yeah, and it was believed it's believed that the Game Reactor is claiming that CD Projekt Red is currently aiming to release Cyberpunk 2077 by the end of 2016. So within a year, we could get two Game of the Year nominated games from CD Projekt Red, and
No, sorry. I was just saying.
Do.
No, I could see that definitely happening. I mean, I even felt at the time when The Witcher 2 came out. I know that the time it came out, it was already been some time since The Witcher 2 has come out on the PC, and then it ended up getting a release on the mainly on the 360, anyways, where it was like the collector's edition or. Well, some kind of edition.
The enhanced edition.
Yeah, it was the enhanced edition, which practically it just attributed to a lot of the updates they put out for the PC version, just put on the console, which is pretty much kind of polishing the game originally from when it was released, and just kind of tinkering it with a little bit, and and ended up pretty much enhancing it. Yeah, new cutscene added in there, and just small little things that also ended up being big things for some folks that had played it at launch and got released on 360 primarily. I don't think it came out for the PS4, but at the time when it did come out, I considered that as the game of the year when I played it. And with this Witcher 3 as well, very much, I strongly believe is definitely a game of the year.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything, but I will say that Witcher 3 is definitely a top-tier contender for the year.
Yes, with such other titles that I had so much high expectations for that just let me down, like Arkham Knight.
Mm-hmm.
This one's on the top there. It's a top-tier game, Witcher 3.
It not only lived up to gameplay standards, but story standards, which is something that, for Arkham Knight, that it did for gameplay, not so much story. And then for and same thing a little bit with well, no, I'm not going to say that now because I'm going to spoil the topic later. But
we'll say later when we probably get into more in-depth discussion of the year in games, and also discussing what necessarily would be our games of the year and why, and what other games maybe in the categories we'll announce that were maybe the disappointing games of the year. We'll kind of get into that a little bit more, and with very heavy in-depth kind of spoiler discussions as the time rolls on before they near the end of the year. So hopefully we'll be able to get together with the fellow crew over at the BGB.com.
I would love that.
I would absolutely love that. So
Oh yeah, so
Cyberpunk 2077. This is a very, very anticipated title. I mean, this is probably my next game up for next year as something I much looking forward to. If the game comes out next year, we know how things roll. We don't necessarily, we things get delayed. We don't always take the initial release dates or rumors too much to heart until we get an actual announcement, and also as the date nears by for that release, we'll have a bit more confidence. If it's a few months out, it's possible for delays, so we don't hold our breath too much for that. As at least a month before, then we'll be all right. We'll be excited.
The CD Projekt Red have said that this is going to be bigger than Witcher 3, and it's not going to be Blade Runner in terms of how they're making their story. So I'm genuinely interested in seeing how it's all going to turn out, especially since of how great Witcher 3 was. Because Witcher 2 was a kind of a B-level game, but done with an A-level studio competency.
Yeah.
And for taking all the limitations and all they really used everything. They wringed out every single drop for quality. And then with Witcher 3, it's like, okay, here's what happens when you have a AAA budget with a AAA developer. And now I'm really interested to see what they do next.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, we don't have too much to say about the actual kind of what kind of game we're still very early on. We don't know exactly what kind of game it's going to be. Primarily, like, my impressions of the game, what it may be like. Not exactly like it, but very reminiscent of. This is just my own assumptions, pre-assumptions before this is even announced or any kind of gameplay is shown. Just from like the artwork, or kind of very very small. Very very small teaser we saw like years ago when it was first announced. The impression I got from this was kind of like very, very much their version of like Deus Ex in a way, and I'm curious to see if it would be like that. And we lost CH. Oh no, damn Belkin.
I am absolutely sick to death of this. Belkin. Okay, so I heard that you wanted to compare this to another game, and then that's where it cut off. Which game would you like to compare it to?
No worries. My pre-assumptions I had for the game, but I felt a little Deus Ex vibe from this game. I don't know if the gameplay will be like it exactly, but I feel like it'll be a CD Projekt Red's version of Deus Ex. Probably done better.
That would be very, very interesting to see, especially with their sensibilities for writing and gameplay. Not saying it's anywhere bad for Deus Ex Human Revolution, but it would be interesting to see from another perspective, especially for foreign developers have a different kind of cultural sensibilities. For instance, the Metro series is a very different type of post-apocalyptic game from something like the Fallout series, where it's very pessimistic, but people are trying to make the best of it, whereas Fallout is, okay, it's post-apocalyptic, but people have made new societies and are striving forward and rebuilding from the ashes. So I'm very interested to see what a futuristic science fiction story, maybe transhumanism kind of themes that Deus Ex had, but in the hands of CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, I mean, there's still so much we don't know about it. So I'm just going on a bunch of speculation, but it's just from everything, it seems it has that very much a Deus Ex vibe in a sense, and also Blade Runner. It'd be amazing if they make a kind of a standalone kind of game set in the Blade Runner universe. That'd blow my socks off.
They did. It was an older game, and it was released on the PC, but there haven't been any major re-releases. And
that I played. I was primarily speaking of like another standalone Blade Runner game by CD Projekt Red. That'd blow my socks off. I did play that. That's a very hard game to find, especially online. It's hard to find that game, that Blade Runner game for the PC. It was like It was very much like a point and click Blade Runner game. It was very good. I liked the story a lot. It was very interesting. It had a lot of the kind of similar I wouldn't say issues, but at the time it was kind of the standard. It was the very essence of going back to playing like a point and click kind of game. It's very hard because it had a very different mindset and a very different kind of mechanics, and we're not used to because we're so used to like the kind of quote unquote point and click adventures we get like from Telltale. That it's just so off the beaten path that they don't get as obscure as like the older games when the PCs.
The older games are just like, find the tiniest detail that you can in this matte painting, click on it, and then try to rub it against something else with another action, and hope it works.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I have a lot of feelings that this is kind of maybe going to be something like Deus Ex, or maybe I'd be very excited and interested if we get like a kind of a we get an interesting, more profound kind of much like the moral ambiguity we get with The Witcher. I'd be very interested to see if they handle or discuss more of the subject on like what makes a human human, much like what Deus Ex was about, or what also this kind of new game from Quantic Dream is kind of pigeon-tailing and trying to say that they're going to be profound. What does it mean to be human? They're kind of trying to make their own ex machina.
With emotions.
They're trying to make their own ex machina, but in a video game form, it's like, get the hell out of here.
And that's actually, speaking of and tying back to what we were talking about before, Soma is very much like that, where it's about consciousness, and it does it in a way that I really didn't think about before, and it's kind of uncomfortable in terms of how, because you play a fully voiced character with a personality, and so you're kind of seeing it from his perspective as well as your own. So it's a very interesting dilemma, and I gotta say it's very well from what I can tell from the YouTube watching spree. It's a very well done story.
Oh, that's cool. I definitely want to check it out soon. Very warm welcomes, Mr. Conviction. Shout out.
Hello.
Play the air horns. Welcome to the podcast, the live edition. I know you had a quick question for us. If we got Rainbow Six Siege, or what are our thoughts on Rainbow Six? I have not played Rainbow Six since like the 360.
I've the last Rainbow Six I played was Vegas, surprisingly enough.
Oh man! So that many Vegas discussions. New Vegas, Blood Money in Vegas, and this in Vegas.
I'm telling you,
Vegas is a popular place and not used enough in video games.
No, I mean, every time people want to blow something up, it's going to be New York or DC because it's memorable. But like, no, Vegas is doing well in terms of representation.
I remember there was one game that was touted to be released many years ago on the 360 that was like an open world game set in Vegas. I was very curious to see.
This is Vegas?
Yeah. There you go. It's a simple title. I was very interested to see what kind of game it ended up turning out to be. I would like to have tried it out.
That and Faith in a 45 were two interesting open world games that never materialized.
Yeah, much like the Agent from Rockstar and.
Oh yeah, jeez, that one would have been real. Like between Agent and LA Noire, I thought LA Noire would be the one that would be canceled first,
right?
Because it's like there's so many more gameplay opportunities that you could do with Agent, and whereas if you're kind of limited in terms of LA Noire because it's a period piece story. And so very interesting for that one. And I have not played Siege. Rainbow Six Siege. I feel like I'm not too big on the big multiplayer only games.
Yeah, that's primarily the main reason I don't buy a lot of these kind of games that just primarily are going to end up most gameplay and the most time you're really going to dedicate for the most part is a lot of the just multiplayer, because usually the single player is just kind of filler. Primarily just to kind of get you in the mode for getting ready for multiplayer, and I mean not even
Titanfall. Yeah.
Yeah, and not even not even mostly for that, anyways. Because I know a lot of people don't play the single player for Call of Duty. They just pop it in for the multiplayer, and
Never play a single player. That's why the previous gen Call of Duty Black Ops 3 doesn't even have a single player.
Yeah, I mean, more power to them if that's kind of what you're into. I mean, it's just not necessarily a kind of game I would want to that I would spend $60 on, because I know I wouldn't get the full value of it by playing it online. I'm just not up for that, because I'm never up to par with a lot of people that play it online. It's just I could agree that primarily you and I are very more of the single player kind of games, and we're very much into story for the most part in some of our games. And speaking of story, I know that there's many stories going around for a possible sequel to Red Dead Redemption.
There are a lot of stories, but just before we move on, I just want to say I don't mind the idea of paying $60 for an online-only game if it is a game that is worth that content. Because
Destiny?
You shut your mouth.
I killed CH. And that John Lennon song, the Paul McCartney song. In Destiny.
It might as well be John Lennon, just because it feels just as lifeless. It's a destiny. I don't know what Paul McCartney sings. I forget, just because that song's completely forgettable. For a $60 game, you really should be getting your content's worth. And for Battlefront and Siege, Star Wars Battlefront and Rainbow Six Siege, both of them feel like playing Battlefront in the beta and then playing a little bit of Siege at a demo, they feel like they feel like games that have a good skeletal structure, but they really need a lot more content to justify the price point, especially when they have such expensive season passes, where you have to pay for over $100 for Battlefront's entire season pass and main game. So you're paying for $100 for really just a full multiplayer experience, which should be at least $50 less.
Primarily, a lot of not necessarily too much difference or has happened between the previous gen till now. I know we've had online passes, which is one of the bigger things that that plagued the last generation, and near the end was online passes. But now we've gotten a more sinister and still prevalent beast. Is just the season passes, which is primarily a good chunk of the content comes from the season passes. And I don't like hearing people say Destiny's a good game if you buy the season pass. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, no.
Get the hell out of here.
No.
IGN.
That excuse ain't gonna fly. And Destiny. It's okay.
I'd rather watch the pick of Destiny with Jack Black.
Oh my gosh! I will replace. I'll take out your balls and put your balls where your eyes should be, and put your eyes where your balls should be.
If they replaced the Paul McCartney song for Destiny with the pick of Destiny, I would have enjoyed that game a lot more.
Day one.
'Cause it's the pick. Destiny.
I did not mean to blow your mind. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, on a side note, very unrelated, I'm very sad that we never got a sequel to Mystery Men. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I think we can all admit that Mystery Men needed another sequel, if not just more appreciation. Because it's even one of those cult movies that doesn't get that much appreciation.
It was kind of innovative a little bit at the time when it came out, due to the nature of kind of a team-up movie in a sense, and it was also
darker superhero film.
It was a darker yet very comedic superhero film, and it had a really great cast for the time. They weren't as big as they are now.
Oh no,
they had a really good cast. I don't know if they could really replicate or even get some of the people.
Ben
back.
Stiller and William H. Macy are the biggest stars out of that one. I'm not sure Kel Mitchell is exactly pulling in the numbers.
No, he's in high demand for me. I play him. I play. I pay $1 for to get him on board.
Who?
Paul Rubens. Yeah,
I'll tempt him with some orange soda.
yeah. It's some orange soda, and we'll get Paul
Who
Rubens
is?
back.
Do you happen to know who was the actress who played the girl with the bowling ball with her father's skull in the inside of it?
Yeah, it was Janine Garofalo.
Janine
She
Garofalo.
was
Jeez.
when she was big at the time.
Oh my goodness. I do wonder just like what the points are where people, even just like famous people just kind of drop off, and how they feel about it. Like if they're happy that they just like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to keep up being like the AAA celebrity and I can just take projects that I want, or I'm sad that I don't have the ability to choose all the big AAA projects that I want.
Yeah, honestly, it's a very interesting inquiry. I know I couldn't handle being a celebrity. I don't like the attention all
But
on
no,
me.
we are celebrities
Well, oh,
running
yeah.
this site right now.
We're
We're on
celebrities
Blind
in our
Thumbs.
celebrities in our own minds.
Oh yes.
Honestly, I really wish they did. It was one of those very cult films that is like it picked up a lot of. It didn't do well at the time it came out, but it picked up a lot of steam. On DVD sales and at the time on demand and all that other services. That which is always usually the life that's breathed into to a movie like that. I know probably the same for Dread too. I know it didn't make much at the box office, but it ended up picking a lot of heat, a lot of steam when it came out, like on VOD or on DVD.
Oh yeah, because Lionsgate completely messed up any type of great marketing for that film, and just like, people will see it. No, guys, you gotta put some work into it. And I would have to say that Mystery Men's a really subversive film. It's one of those films. I don't want to spoil it, but there's like that mid story twist that for the characters messing up like so majorly that it actually affects like, holy crap, these people are terrible.
Yeah, there was that, and then just a whole. It just also, but it was even before the Watchmen movie, or it was very much.
It's not as dark as Watchmen.
Not as dark as Watchmen, but it
it's
was
certainly more towards that than the Avengers.
Yeah, it was ahead of the. I think it was ahead of time. Just very surprising it didn't do as well because it was very much that essence of kind of what we're getting now. A lot of team up movies or any kind of like darker superhero movies. I mean, it was shot like a dark superhero movie, but it was very much a comedy.
Oh yeah, it was. It was almost like it wasn't. It was very much beyond its time, and it was making fun of like corporate sponsors or like the traditional superheroes are actually kind of these very falsified product placements almost, and like the real superheroes are just kind of normal people who mess up all the time, and it's a very entertaining film.
Yeah, I mean, I'd recommend it if you guys haven't seen it. It's very very entertaining. And they had a great cast of groups and a lot of character actors too, and even bigger stars like I know Jeffrey Rush and then Eddie Izzard were in it. Eddie Izzard barely got any screen time in that. Very unfortunate. But I know, to get back to the topic at hand, I brought up earlier with I know the possible rumblings of Red Dead Redemption 2. What do you see? I know there's not been much. There's not been a lot of word of mouth or much going on in terms of like what the future is for Rockstar, which is always the case. So they have to put out any other game, what their next project would be. It's because that's one of the developers that we were very interested in seeing what they come out with next. It's always been something different. Like we've gotten Max Payne 3 from them. We've gotten GTA and Red Dead Redemption.
It seems like whatever project interests them the most is what's gonna be the next one, rather than kind of what's the biggest moneymaker. And whatever they choose happens to be the biggest moneymaker of all time. And I honestly, Red Dead Redemption has such a big following, I'm not sure where they could go from there. because Red Dead Redemption was this magnum opus of all the different types of these different types of Western subgenres along this kind of very strong main emotional line of this story of revenge, and kind of what that means to John Marston, who's the main character, and kind of how that affects his life and his story, and the idea of how it really shapes what he wants, and relating to his family. And I'm not sure where to go from there, because that was kind of the end of the period for the Westerns, where at the end of the story, spoiler alert, so turn away for 10 seconds, where Jack Marston takes over.
Yeah.
Because that's like the end of that's kind of the end of the era. There's the trains are coming through, civilization's starting to crop up. There's kind of the rumblings of the First World War happening, and like Eastern European countries are kind of being unhappy with one another. I mean, they could do another one, but it feels like they would need a really good inspiration to do that.
Yeah,
in a very particular story.
Oh yeah. I mean, it just as you mentioned, like that game was definitely one of a kind, and frankly, probably one of the best games they've made in terms of just all the culmination of things they learned from like the prior games they put out, and a lot of the mistakes that were kind of made, and they definitely repolished with like GTA 4, and it's like the best Western game ever made.
I feel so sad for anybody who wants to make a Western game, because it's like they're going to be instantly compared to Grand Theft Auto. I'm sorry, not Grand Theft Auto of Red Dead Redemption.
Oh yeah, listen to the Liberty City Radio on the horse.
Just try to twist the hairs on the back of your horse's neck to turn to the different radio stations.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough in terms of really matching that, or even following up on that, unless they really had a really good idea and story and where they wanted to go with it. It would have to. I personally would have to be obviously a new character. I don't think it'd have to be a prequel, or you have to play as one of the members of the gang that were in the game. I think it can definitely be and work in the same universe, but like or in the same era. Quite frankly, with just a new character, I could see them maybe going. I don't remember what the time period was when that game took place, but I mean, I could see the game taking place maybe during like the Transcontinental Railroad, was kind of cropping up. They were building railroads, much like Hell on Wheels. The show takes place during that time as well, and I could see that being like the forefront of like the the time frame of the game.
That would be a very interesting inversion of the of the type of gameplay tropes that Rockstar employs, where instead of a free roaming cowboy, maybe you play a sheriff who's trying to protect a town, and you gotta deal with these other outlaws. So rather than see it from his perspective of like, who do you deal with, who do you trust, and also whatever you do, don't let Dan Houser near the script, because you could definitely tell which parts were him and which parts were not Brendan McNamara, who did L.A. Noire, but I'm trying to remember the I'm going to do the Red Dead Redemption writer.
Yeah,
look up on writers.
Right.
But you could definitely tell Michael Unsworth and Christian Cantamessa. And you can definitely tell which ones were Dan Houser, because that was like specifically relegated to Irish, because he loves to put in really offensive stereotypes as well as really outdated, not outdated humor, but anachronistic humor, like for the movie theaters.
Yeah.
You'd be watching this like really like for the time that would be incredibly offensive type of movie. And then, like, here, just treated like, oh, it's just another movie. It's like, I think the fact that there's so many phallic jokes means that Dan Houser's around here somewhere.
Yeah, there's some questionable choices in writing and some of the moments in there, but fortunately, it didn't affect the game too much.
No, it didn't
ruin our opinions on it. It's definitely a tricky slope to go on. I mean, one, I definitely like to see another game in that, another Western, frankly, in general. I mean, there's as
There's
much
barely any westerns
there's
out.
barely any Western games out there, much like Western movies, you know.
There's Gun, and there's Call of Juarez series. I think it was called Gunslinger, a very recent one where it was a first-person shooter, and I love that one.
Yeah.
And it was that was really good, but it just it's very much like the movie genre for westerns now these days. It's very hard to write for it because everything that has been done has been exhausted so much that you really need to think of something really inspiring, or else it's just going to come across as flat.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's hard to really live up or compare it in terms of the quality. A lot of the kind of the spaghetti western films, mainly the ones starring like Clint Eastwood, and
Clint Eastwood is the western.
he is the western genre, so it's like really hard
him
to live
and John
up.
Wayne.
Yeah, really hard to live up to any kind of to be more classical. When you consider the high standards of Citizen Kane's of Western films, like the Dirty Dozen, Unforgiven, all those
good,
good
the
stuff.
bad, the ugly. That is probably the best Western ever.
Yeah, and I love Westerns. There's just not enough of them, and I like to see more of them be handled in the video game sense. But just what they did with Red Dead Redemption was, quite frankly, a surprise and a big leap towards what they could do further with that kind of writing and also the time period, and especially with them being limited on, especially the time period being limited on certain things that they can do.
The weaponries, the type of people who could be represented for that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see it. Well, I mean, I'm more curious to see if they'll tackle something completely different, or they go back to another IP. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Like Rockstar is a very interesting developer in terms of what they could do next in the next properties. Because they could do it. They could pretty much do anything they want, and just anything out of left field, and it probably will work.
They don't overmilk their franchises.
Yeah, and they don't release them on like every year. They take a lot. They take their time to work on it, and it's like. It's very much the case, like the work shows where all the years put in, and they always end up making the money they make, always making the money back to what they invest. Always. All the quality
and then some.
And then some. Yeah, that was
even like ping pong.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that was a very obscure release for Rockstar, but it was definitely one of the most. The most well put together for anyone who's played it. I've heard nothing but good things about that, like ping pong Rockstar game. Out of all things to put out,
they love the working with physics engines, and so they definitely want to work with it as much as possible. So I feel like that's why they released ping pong. Just like, okay, this is going to be a completely original IP. And, depending on how in the world people receive it, we'll incorporate it into our Grand Theft Auto games. And I respect even Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5, which I didn't really entirely like for the writing purposes. I do feel like on a technical level they should be acknowledged just because of how well they are able to take the Euphoria engine and really make it their own.
Oh, yeah. They've always been the pioneers of pushing the technology forward, especially what they did with GTA 5. Like that's probably the most technically, competent game as you're ever going to get, especially for it being on the previous gen consoles. They looked as good as what we kind of get now. I mean, they were just technically well put together. Just for even it being such a big open world game that had so many things going on with it, there was like little to no issues with it, as you may be able to get on other properties.
Good Lord, it is just impressive looking.
Yeah, and I just loved a lot of the ideas to put forth in that game. So it may not have panned out as well exactly in the story, but it is what it is. It was all right. I like the ideas they had, and they always put out quality products with very interesting ideas, and a lot of things to expand upon on. And I know I've heard rumors that if that if they were doing that, they maybe give you the ability to switch between characters again. Who knows?
I would actually like to see, out of all the properties, getting a sequel. Bully, I think, would be the most interesting for them to go back to, because they would, unlike Manhunt, unlike LA Noire, Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar would be limited in terms. They would be constrained by what they could say and what they could do, because it was a T-rated game. And I feel like that limitation would for me. I certainly do believe in the idea of limitation for artistic endeavors breeds creativity, and I feel like that was definitely the case for Bully, and it definitely deserved another chance.
Oh yeah, I mean, I unfortunately didn't get to finish Bully. I know I played at least a couple hours of it. I played it on the PC, and I really enjoyed what I played so far. It was it was very nostalgic, because it reminded you kind of the times you were in school, and just had a lot of the kind of mindset of what you were, what the characters were like, and how you were like in school. So it was very reminiscent of that, and just like little simple things like talking to a bum, doing side quests with them. It was insane. It's something that is so. It was so different and a breath of fresh air that a lot of these things that may seem very mundane are very just so interesting and fun how it was executed in this game, because it just had you do so much, like just a lot of like running away or giving people wedgies, and it was just so fun, and
hiding from the class prefect, I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, and it also used it used a lot of mechanics like you would see in like GTA, but they use it in a way that works with the theme and what the place that is taken place in. Is just like, because you're in school and you have to follow a schedule to get to class, or if you don't get to class, I think either a teacher or like the hall monitor looks for you, and they catch you, and you go to class. And you do like chemistry and things like that. Actually legit questions and stuff like in chemistry, and just oh my goodness, some of these were like head scratches. You had to look up. It was like back in school again.
They certainly made it feel like you actually had to attend class and do your own homework for this game.
Yeah, I mean, we can always say like anything they do it's always gonna make money, so they not always necessarily taking too many risks with any kind of property they put out there, because every time is always a very quality product, which is a lot of interesting ideas. And
since Grand Theft Auto 3, they've been selling like hotcakes.
Oh yeah, even when it's announced, it's already like a bunch of pre-orders already in place. Just
it's already gone gold.
It's that crazy that people will trust in enough to purchase anything that comes out. And it does, in limitation, does breed out a lot of creativity. We've definitely talked about that before. A perfect example was the Spider-Man animated series. And, they were heavily limited in a lot of the things that they couldn't say or couldn't discuss or bring up in that show, and it was like a quality show with all the restrictions. We've gone down the whole list of things that they couldn't do in the show. It was so bad. It was so bad, and they were like
my favorite. Was an executive note that said, when Spider-Man lands on a rooftop, he cannot harm any pigeons. Where it's just like, dude, you need to back off, because that's too much.
Yeah, nowhere in the comics does he ever harm pigeons, so I don't know why you even put that clause in. It was so bad, like it was just so crazy. But that show could have easily been a disaster if it was handled by any other group besides the team that worked on it. It was just an impressive display of creativity and just writing around the limitations they had that ended up making that show probably one of my favorite superhero animated shows, along with the Batman series in the 90s.
Oh, gosh, Batman the Animated Series, talk about good storytelling working within limitations. I mean, that was just a fantastic series, and it helped spawn a lot of memorable characters like Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
And what was I thinking of?
Yeah, I mean, Harley Quinn was definitely spawned off of the anime series and just become a huge success and huge popular character, as much as the Joker is now. Especially from being spawned off for like more of a more of a kind of family friendly kind of show, and her kind of expanding the character so much from the animated series to kind of what she is now. Depending on the iterations you read. We'll have to see. I'm very interested in seeing what the maybe announcement is whenever we do get an announcement. I mean, they can easily just kind of lay in the bed of the money they made with GTA Online itself. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, they don't have
huge of a success they had, and very, very salty that they never got like a GTA 5 story DLC. But that's just me. We never got that. We never got that. It would have been interesting to see just much. I was very excited to possibly get another story expansion DLC for GTA 5 because the ones for GTA 4 are really great. I mean, they added a lot of things that made the game more convenient for you, especially the checkpoints. The checkpoints were not very forgiving in GTA 4, and that they definitely address those in the expansions DLC that they put out for that. Just a lot of other things were properly addressed and updated in those expansions. I'm very curious to see where they go from there, and who knows? I'm very interested in to see if they ever do anything else with Max Payne. I mean, honestly, the way that they concluded that is probably the perfect outing. I mean, I'd say Max Payne 2 was a good outing.
Dude, Max
I don't know why they had to make another one.
Every single iteration of Max Payne's life is like Jack Bauer's life. It just gets progressively worse, and he gets so little left to hang on to. Just like, I think he's probably going to have to end it right there. Just like, I mean, that's probably as happy an ending that Max Payne could get.
No, it's a good comparison. I know that they have a lot of similarities in terms of a lot of the things and people they get close to always ended up getting killed or being a more terrible experience
tortured
or something like that. It would have been really interesting to see what maybe Remedy could have done with Max Payne 3. Although, honestly, just in terms of how Max Payne 2 ended, I don't even think that they would even want to go back to it. I think that was mainly made for the sake of maybe making up the profit since they bought the rights for it.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much all it was. It was a gameplay it was pretty good. I liked it. It was
Max Payne 3 or Max Payne 2.
Both. I like Max Payne 2 the most. It's probably it was very film noirish, and I love just the simple cutscenes that they had in the game, and it was very, very graphic novel panels displayed, through the cutscenes, and they were done really well for the time. I know Max Payne 3, you weren't necessarily too big of a fan of it, just due to the fact because there was not a lot of progression in terms of the maybe leveling up your weapons or any kind of like level progression. You didn't feel too much about it because you started off the same as you ended it in terms of like kind of what you've kind of is mainly more skill based or more trial and error than anything, because you always have to be very accurate, and you also have to avoid, because it was very much felt much like a more old school kind of third person shooter, much like the previous games did, because they didn't have any regenerating health, and you're very limited in terms of like what you could do to get out of a situation by just staying in cover. It was very much different like that. It was more, your shooting had to be really precise in order to make much progress. But it is what it was. What it was. It felt very reminiscent to older shooters in that regard.
For me, I felt like that it wasn't that just standards have changed. It was that the gameplay as well as the narrative of Max really did not evolve to the point in terms of, like, for instance, Gears of War, for instance, 1, 2, and 3, they're very much focused on the idea of, like, okay, you don't really evolve as a character. You switch around guns, and then you try to figure out which one works best for you. And in Max Payne 3, it felt like everything kind of felt the same, and there was no sense of progression. And the game that I compared it to at the time was Stranglehold, which was a very underrated game. John Woo essentially made it as the semi sequel to A Hard Boiled, which was the Chow Yun Fat film.
Yeah.
And for Max Payne 3, I felt like the rockstar protagonist of criticizing everything around him and not really standing up for anything except for when his friends were in danger. It kind of gets old after a while. Right. And there was his friend who was kind of a more upbeat person. I'd love to play as him because he had kind of the more interesting narrative arc. And it's just for Max Payne 3, I felt like there was a big opportunity to do something very. I mean, like the visual style's influenced by Man on Fire, and I'd love to see kind of that sort of intensity brought to the Max Payne 3 story. But there was just something really missing that made it all connect, that really snapped together for me. Well, I'm gonna have to go back and replay it because I'm thinking about it now, and I'd love to see it again. Yeah,
it's been a while. It would be really cool to do a retrospective review. I know we've done very few and far between for those. The only games I remember us doing retrospective reviews on was Blood Money and also Chaos Theory. So I love to bring those segments back again and see how we kind of how our taste have changed, or how our opinions have changed about certain games. So I'll definitely like to do that.
I could love Max Payne 3.
So I'd like to put that on the list as things we could definitely replay. I mean, I could definitely see where you're coming from. I wouldn't consider that game to be the best in terms of the story, because I felt like Max Payne 2 was definitely the conclusion of that story, and a lot of the sentiments you make on Max Payne 3, a lot of it has to do with them just kind of dragging out the story, because it already ended and they were just dragging it out primarily just to kind of make a profit off the property, because it relatively they bought the rights to it right after Max Payne 2 came out, I believe, or Max Payne 1. I guess they wanted to do something with it, and it just kind of felt that way. It felt like more of a kind of a game that they put out, and they never really talked about it again. It's just kind of one of those games that kind of flew by. It's not one of the most talked about games Rockstar's put out. I mean, it's a very competent game. I mean, it's very linear. It's very linear and very different in not being open world. But I felt like they used a lot of the linearity, and they didn't have to necessarily put too much emphasis on a lot of other things on the side. I feel like a lot of things were very well detailed, and because they had to resort to being linear in just a gameplay sense. But I could definitely see those sentiments as well in terms of the story. It felt very dragged on and not evolved, because primarily he kind of already sort of devolved in Max Payne 2 and evolved by the end.
I love that kind of gritty detective character is something that we don't have too much of because it's very hard to kind of write for that character. I
guess besides maybe like The Wolf Among Us felt very reminiscent of that.
Yeah, The Wolf Among Us, and even Witcher 3 to an extent, where it's a kind of character who is very isolated, who's very alone, who's the hard-boiled, chain smoking, hard drinking, down on his luck, terrible with love, type of human being. That's kind of hard to write for, because it's kind of hard to sympathize with him, even on the best of occasions. Yeah. And I'd love to see that done well, and it has been done well, but I just didn't feel that it's particularly struck a chord with me for Max Payne 3 when I played it then. But I probably have the copy around here somewhere, and I'd love to replay it and try to figure out if I do love it better now, or if I was too harsh on it, or if I didn't see something there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could definitely see where you're coming from. Just thinking about it right now, I'd agree. I mean, this is just me because I love the series, and I really wanted to like this. I really wanted to like 3, and I liked a lot more things, a bit more than what you did. But I mean, in terms of the story, a lot of the sentiments go back to it feeling being very dragged out, and the character never evolved because he had already gone through that pretty much phase through the first 2 games. He devolved, and then kind of had a little glimmer of evolution by the end of the game. of Max Payne 2. So I really wish you would have played Max Payne 2 because you would have liked that a lot more because of the way it was presented, very film noir, gritty kind of game with the character, and it was very much presented like a film noir because it had the femme fatale in it, and
the dangerous dames.
a lot of aspects of it in terms of like film noir. You would have loved that game if you had the chance to play it when it came out.
God, I love that genre.
Yeah, I love that too. It's just there's not enough of it, and just even when there is, it's not done particularly too well.
It's not really. The problem is that it not only does it deal with kind of the underbelly, but a big problem, but a big aspect of kind of traditional classic film noir is don't trust women, and nowadays that would be seen as kind of misogynistic.
Oh yeah,
because like you can't really have that without having the accusations fly by, because that's even like with Casablanca or the Maltese Falcon or the Third Man, where a lot of these classic crime noir films they have women you're not supposed to trust, and nowadays that would kind of be seen as kind of backwards. And the thing is, like the romantic interest is supposed to be this person you're not really supposed to entirely trust, and because that shows like even the most closest person to the heart of the main protagonist is not someone that he can openly believe in.
Yeah, but it's not even necessarily because they're women. It's because they have their own ulterior motives that they get in the way of the main character's feelings towards them, because there's this attraction and you kind of get lost in the myths of their alluring yet dangerous vibes you get from those femme fatales, which is why they're called femme fatales. Not necessarily because they're women or you can't trust them. It's just that the most the way to get to a man is their heart, and then that's what it kind of hurts the most when they stab you in the back. That's like the best kind of a perfect example of kind of how that genre works in terms of the film noir.
You know what the most recent example of that I can think of was? That wasn't a Christopher Nolan film.
Right.
Is Sherlock Holmes with Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, I remember that. That was the first one, the first Sherlock Holmes, and then there was that. Oh, that was the second one. Actually, it was kind of more.
They didn't try to use her again.
No, and then they had this whole other subplot going on there. But yeah, that's a good example of that kind of the last one that I can think of that was very reminiscent of that. And I mean, it's tough. It's tough to pull off the genre sometimes, and even how people portray these movies sometimes, it just kind of blows my mind how they interpret them sometimes, thinking something is. Oh, yeah. Thinking something is this when it's really not the intention of what it is, especially like a lot of the misogyny stuff.
And I feel like people are getting really there are genuine criticisms going around in terms of a traditional Western writing of races, because a lot of movies, television, and video games are controlled. The industries are controlled by white men, and for them, or at least represented mostly by white men. The people who are in power are who finance these things are white men, and so sometimes there are things that are lost in translation that they don't really pick up on. And when people have a genuine complaint, like for instance, Gods of Egypt, where it was it's an upcoming film where like all the Egyptians, most of the Egyptians are white, and it's like, or like what, or is it Gods and Kings, where it's like Christian Bale and some other guy played the story of Moses.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, there were no Caucasians in this area. And like that's legitimate, but there are some people who, when a film tries to do something in terms of race or identity or sexuality or a particular group, and they think it's an immediate attack. Like the earliest I can think of, the earliest one that I can really think of that sticks out was albino people were wanted to boycott The Matrix Reloaded because the two albino ghost twins were big antagonists in the film.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, they're not saying albino people are bad. They're just saying, like, okay, here's two twins who can turn into ghosts. That's it. They're not, like, implying that, like, all albinos are ghosts. And it's this level of sensitivity I think we've gotten a little too worried about. Like, for instance, even recently, like where Tropic Thunder back in 2009, where Robert Downey Jr. spectacularly delivers a great performance as Kirk Lazarus, who becomes who's an Australian actor who's so method that he actually becomes a black man. Through it's the commentary of like method actors who go way too far to the point of not even recognizing kind of why people might have a problem with them stepping on cultural sensitivities, and people just, and if it was released today, people would have just like, oh, he's just doing blackface and that's offensive, or the fact that there's that Tropic Thunder was written by Justin Theroux. And Justin Theroux and Zoolander 2 is writing Zoolander 2, and one of them has a transgendered character that's being used with comedy, and because of that, people are automatically saying that it's offensive, and that they're signing petitions against it. And he's saying, like, you haven't even seen the film yet. You don't even know the context of this.
There's always context when it's Benedict Cumberbatch playing a transgender.
Yeah. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch, like, if anyone can sell any kind of acting skill, it's Benedict Cumberbatch. He was fantastic in The Imitation Game.
Yeah, and he was pretty good in the Black Mass too. He pulled off a really good Boston accent.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah. After watching that film, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. Johnny Depp can actually act when he's not in makeup.
Yeah.
Or at least not in mobster makeup.
Quick question for Mr. Conviction here. Sherlock Holmes versus Batman. Who's the better detective?
Sherlock Holmes, because he takes illegal drugs.
And I would say, well, if you're comparing them to the comic book Batman, that's up for the debate. But if you're comparing them to the video game Batman, I'd probably go with Sherlock Holmes. Batman don't do much investigating. I think Geralt does more investigating than Batman does in The Witcher.
He definitely does. He uses his NCIS detective enhanced mode, where just like, okay, find this one fingerprint that you see at the corner of the room. Okay, now trace it back to the other side of the map.
Which reminds me, I gotta finish that Sherlock Holmes game I had for the PS4. That game was pretty good.
Oh, cool! Yeah, I really wanted to check it out when it got dropped in price. How is it?
Well, I played it months ago when it was out. I was out for a few months prior to me getting it, but I played a couple of cases. I think it was like 2 or 3 cases, and they usually take a little while for you to finish them, because there's always this. You always end up finding some clue that leads on to like another very long story arc, and I just like wrapped up a certain section where I had to get out of this ancient tomb kind of thing going on. It went that far into like ancient tombs,
wow.
Where they kind of like ruins and stuff like that. And yeah, you can control both like Holmes and Watson in certain cases when you had to like pull a lever to open a gate, and then pull another level to open the other gate. So there was like a lot of that going on, but it was genuinely pretty good from what I played, and the voice acting is pretty solid. You know, just like a little side game I was playing. If you're really into the like Sherlock Holmes or the books or anything like that, you'll probably enjoy it. It was pretty good. Like it's probably as good as any kind of other game that you'd probably want to get. I probably consider it a lot better than like L.A. Noire. in terms of like
Ooh.
actually detective solving and stuff, and you actually like
Them's fighting words.
inspecting, inspecting things. It's actually really well done. Because I remember seeing this, and it wasn't really on a lot of people's radar, and apparently it really got me interested in playing the previous games from the same developer. They actually made like 2 or 3 more previous Sherlock Holmes games that are actually pretty good for the PC. So
kick ass.
if I ever do finish this, maybe I'll stream it. I want to actually probably stream that and finish it up, because I really like what I played. So they were very interesting gameplay mechanics that they use. Very, very simple, and the dialogue is always very, very good between Watson and Holmes. So I remember I remember it did remind me too, as Mr. Conviction said, very much like Murdered Soul Suspect. And that was another cool game that had some interesting things going for it. It's been so long since I played it, but I remember liking it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like
great.
It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it had some cool ideas.
I really want there to be a revolution, not a revolution, but more of a focus on mid-tier games. We have indie games, we have AAA games, and I think a lot of the new talent of studios and of IPs will come from these middle studios that release stuff like Murdered Soul Suspect, Enslaved: Odyssey to the West at the time with Ninja Theory,
right?
And with the Sherlock Holmes stuff, because that's where we get really interesting developers.
Yeah. I mean, they're like right in the they're really like in the mid tier. They're really the perfect way to describe them. They're not AAA games, but like they're a lot more high budgeted than indie games. So like they're really right in the cusp, like right in the middle, and they really make every effort in making the game as good as they can with like the budget they have. Although not everything works, but it actually, at least they put forward the effort. That was the thing with Murder Soul Suspect. The thing that I can remember from it
even
was
Witcher 2.
Yeah, even Witcher 2. Like even that, I felt a little bit. It was like under the AAA. It was more upper mid tier, but it was like very close.
Mm-hmm.
It was very close. It seemed very limited in terms of the budget. With the Murder Soul Suspect, I got that same sense as well. Like it had a lot of really cool ideas. The only problem that really plagued the game was just it was very repetitive. But the story was really actually well done, and I liked the direction they took with it. And it was just a very interesting and different take on the way they told the narrative. Because even when they announced it at E3, it sold me because it was a very interesting story of you kind of solving your own murder. I mean, that alone was a really cool premise to begin with. And there were a lot of interesting little side quests you do with like freeing people that were still haven't crossed over, that had passed away in like this small town, and I think it was in Massachusetts, very obscure town in Massachusetts during like the 1800s, something like that. I don't remember if it took place in current time. No. It took place in current time, but you somehow were introduced to characters that were also stuck in the past because they haven't crossed over. So there was an interesting little things going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely one of those games that flew under the radar. It was very underlooked. I would say it was. I would give that a look-see. And that Sherlock Holmes game was pretty good too.
Deadly Premonition,
perfect example. I didn't even think it was. It was like slightly close to mid-tier. I don't know what that budget was in the game.
It was $12 and whatever they could ask from people at the bus stop.
But goddamn, I'd play the hell out of that game in a second.
Oh my gosh!
I put that up there in my top 5.
It's also from the mid-tier kind of people who do some more experimental stuff that gets included into the AAA games, because indie, they can do very interesting ideas but for a very small budget, and when you expand that budget, those ideas can't exactly translate well, whereas mid-tier, they can incorporate that better, and then from there AAA games take that and expand upon it. for instance, a lot of the stuff in System Shock games, which were
a lot of it was very very much updated and carried over to like BioShock. I remember playing System Shock 2 when it was available on good old games, and a lot of it was very reminiscent to what we got with BioShock. Just a lot of with explorations and the cassette tapes, and, and very much relying heavily on like maybe a melee weapon or like any kind of scraps or any kind of weapons you happen to find. A lot of it was very expanded upon in terms of like the way to tell the story through gameplay and the atmosphere rather than just cutscenes. That was very very much like one of the very first, well, not the very first, but one of the very early games that started to kind of break through the mold of the norm that was just of cutscene heavy games.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much trying to tell the story through the environment and just through the gameplay in general, which is kind of what we have been getting, which kind of paved the way right now with most of the games and how they present the story.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that was one of the interesting ones. Damn, now I want to play. I want to play that Sherlock Holmes game. It was actually really well put together. Like, one of my favorite things about it was like actually pinpointing like the actual person that was guilty, and that can go many different ways, and it'll have different outcomes in terms of like who you pick, and you just pretty much collect a lot of clues and you put a lot of pieces together, and like they have this little mechanic that you access, and then you kind of like are a lot of the big clues that you find you put together, and they all kind of get tangled in this kind of web of things you can select from. And it was like I found this, and I found this weapon here, and it was purchased by this guy, so you can put a web or a line between this and this guy, and it'll connect them. Or you can put it on the other side that says maybe it was stolen. So it can take a different. There's different branches of how you interpret these clues that break down, and the game will tell you kind of like if you got the right guy or not, and it'll also kind of let you know a little bit if you want to know, spoil it for yourself, like what exactly was the right answer. Like,
okay.
But it never really goes that route of Eleanor where it tells you or kind of punishes you for getting it wrong.
Completely get it all wrong, and then just like
you kind of you just kind of move on to the next case. Like, oh well, that goes
Jack
that guy.
the Ripper went free. Oh well,
he went free, and you get a nice little cutscene. You also get little remarks through the newspaper and through some dialogue on what happened to the previous case, and you just kind of move on from it. From what I played, I don't know if it affects the overall conclusion of the game in terms of like if you got the right man or not on the previous cases, but I'm very very curious to see if that does or not. But if it doesn't, it was very interesting the way they approached it. I absolutely love how they put that, and that mechanic was really cool. How you put two and two together, and it'll just kind of spin off into this other web of other possibilities. You just have to see it, but it was really cool.
I'm very very interested, and I'll give that a look-see.
But beyond that, I don't know if you've been playing anything recently besides maybe Fallout.
Nope, just Fallout.
How are you progressing through that? Have you gotten much progress, if you don't mind me asking?
Not much at all, because
Okay.
I keep on trying to figure out the main line of story, and then just like I get 3 different side quests, or like a building will be like, oh, that looks really interesting, I'll go explore that, and then 5 hours later I'm like, oh shoot, I still need to progress the main story.
Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of what I've been doing. Honestly, I think I've been into it about maybe 20 some odd hours. I've been kind of doing that same thing and progressively kind of going back and forth between the main quests. It seems very overwhelming in the beginning, but you kind of start to catch up on some of the side quests and main quests as you progress. I haven't really stumbled upon a lot of different areas that open up a new kind of branch of side quests primarily.
Yeah.
The thing is, it doesn't really tell you a good amount what's a side quest or not. It just kind of mainly puts it in the main quest. Unless you're following exactly where you're supposed to go, like through the main quest, and you kind of get a good sense of idea where to go for the main storyline.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's not too primarily categorized in terms of that, but that's just a little side thing.
Yeah.
But beyond that, that's been what you've been on your palate there? You've been playing some more of that Halo 5. Has that left much of an impression on you, man?
Yeah, I still think that it's not anywhere close as good as Halo 4 in terms of the campaign. It's still well told, well spun narrative.
343 doing right by Bungie.
343 is doing very right by Bungie. In fact, I think they're succeeding where Bungie didn't really focus on, which was the narrative. And that I really love as much as I don't like the microtransactions for weapons. Like I can understand for cosmetic stuff, but the weapon packs means that you can access better weapons earlier on, and that does change the gameplay, which I don't really appreciate. I do like the fact that you cannot access them without actually kind of having the skill to actually open them up those options. But it still doesn't really excuse the microtransactions. I have a lot of fun with it. It's probably 4 out of 5 for me. It's good with reservations, and I still say it's probably one of my favorite games of the year.
Oh, that's very cool. I mean, I'm very, very happy that you're enjoying it because, you know, as much as you're a fan of Halo, you know, I'm a big fan of Hitman, so I'm always curious to see exactly kind of how your feelings towards that you know, Halo how your feelings are towards Halo. Because I mean, honestly, I wish I had gotten into it early on. It was kind of one of those series that I wanted to always play, but I could never get into it because I was always so far behind. In terms of like the releases of the games, I remember I rented Halo 3, I believe, and I made the big mistake of not really playing the single player to kind of get my bearings in place to kind of know how to play it. So the first thing I did when I rented it was like play Halo 3 with some friends of mine, and then I was just terrible, and like I felt like such a noob, and I was like, oh man, I just got kind of begrudgingly. I ended up just returning it because I felt so bad because I sucked so bad because I didn't know how to play the game because I didn't know what to expect. It was so different than any other kind of shooter I played, so I didn't have that knowledge going in. I should have played the story campaign, but that was the thing with Blockbuster. You can only you're supposed to have it for a few days, and I had to play that game quick. So I jumped in real quick.
They are not forgiving in terms of they will add fees upon fees to your bill if you're even a day late.
Yeah, that was the thing that I decided to do, and didn't pan out too well, which is why I never ended up getting too much into the series. I know I did play ODST. I remember I got into some beta during the 360 period where it was like a beta for, update for the dashboard or for the system itself. Just kind of, I ended up getting that game for free and playing it. I ended up liking it. It just took me some while to get used to how the mechanics work for the game, because it's very different than most shooters. So it took me a while for that. I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't really know what was going on because I had no familiar bearings to really rely upon.
To be fair,
what the hell was going on?
To be fair, Halo 3 is probably the worst place to start out because
yeah,
it is absolutely beyond just. It's like, oh, it's in the middle of like, oh, it's the Flood. Oh, Cortana's captured. Who's Cortana? Who cares? Like, is she going crazy? That might be a thing. Is the Covenant bad? I thought these elites were bad. What's going on? And then it's so much. And I gotta say that out of all the stories, I'd probably say Halo 3 is the weakest. Because it's mostly just trying to wrap up plot lines rather than making them interesting.
Yeah, and I remember that game had a lot of hype surrounding it at the time when it was released. I remember all I ever heard from folks that I knew was like, Halo 3 is coming out. Halo 3, and it was just I couldn't get too much excited because I hadn't played the previous games. So it's good to hear that you're enjoying it and are giving it such good praise. As I've heard from some folks too, it's just it's been a little bit of a mixed bag for some folks. I know some people are a little salty about Master Chief not being in the game too much.
It's like for the legitimate complaints of Halo 5, it feels like the A+ student you're the teacher, and the A+ student you know is going to go places started to hang out with the bad kid, the bad crowd.
Yeah.
And you're trying to tell them to, like, listen, you don't need to hang out with these guys. You don't need to hang out with Call of Duty. You're not Titanfall. You set your own path. You don't need to do this. And you know, you're not. It's not. You're not doing terrible. The kid's not doing terrible, but you're just disappointed in so much potential, and that's what's so more obvious, and that's what's so much more saddening about it, because you know there could be so much good.
Yeah, I mean, this is just from the outside looking in. It seems like a lot more of the current fans of Halo seem to have drifted off now, since it's kind of been this late in release of, especially the newer games. Seems like there's been more of an influx of maybe newer fans, or kind of a newer generation in terms of like maybe their expectations for kind of like the game, the series, or shooters in general. It seems like seems a lot of the people that have been complaining still haven't had much of a previous experience to kind of how the series was intended to be kind of from the beginning, because maybe they didn't have the privilege to play it at the time, or they've kind of not exactly really grown up in terms of like what maybe their expectations are exceeding them too much that they didn't live up to.
Oh, they might as well be the Crips and the Bloods in terms of just like of how vehemently people hate
very
the new series. They're just like, oh, it should have died with Bungie. The thing is, it's not just like these people leave the series and just like, oh, Bungie's not a part of it, whatever, the hell with this, I'm going. It's like these fans will buy the game, sink in like 60 plus hours into it, and then they'll say they hate it, and then they'll continue playing it, and then it's just like this never. Imagine just somebody who hates Bloodborne and then just keeps playing it. It's confusing, because it's like, if you don't like it, then why do you keep playing? It's like, oh, I got to be objective and be critical of it. It just, like, if you think it ended since Bungie, then why are you still here? It's almost like a, gosh, it's really unfortunate for a lot of fanboyism, and for 343, I think they're doing a very difficult balancing act between trying to respect where the story came from and where they want to take it, and where they want to take the overall series, including the gameplay. And they've done so far. I think they've done a good job.
Oh, that's good.
And I really hope that they do well. They're going to be releasing more DLC in the future. This week they're supposed to be releasing the Forge mode and a bunch of new playlists. So I'm looking forward to that.
Very cool, very cool. I always love hearing opinions on games that I'm not too familiar with, and especially series like Halo that I hadn't had the opportunity to delve into as much as other series that I love, Hitman included. I feel that's kind of the same way. I'm trying to really be objective, but it's sometimes sometimes it's hard to keep people in place, and they always lose sight of what they love merely about the series in general. I'm very optimistic when it comes to some of these current game series that maybe get handed off to a different developer, or maybe the same studio, maybe with like a different director in hand. I know that's kind of the same a little bit with the new Hitman game. It's very, very much a new focus. Same team, but some of the staff has been moved around, and I know that they've had layoffs there as well. So some of the original team, especially the director, I don't think is there anymore. And I think the tour of Blistad, it was like he was a part of the Blood Money crew till like Absolution, and I think he ended up going to, I don't remember where he ended up going to, but I remember reading an article, but he was kind of like the very remaining few that worked on Blood Money. So I'm very curious to see what the direction they'll take with the new Hitman game, and hopefully it still is very reminiscent to what they've been saying. It's going to be very reminiscent of Blood Money.
I think, especially with video games, the creative team who works on the newest entry really focuses on what was successful before.
Much like Silent Hill. I mean, once the Team Silent got split off after like Silent Hill 3. It's just kind of a lot of the newer team and people that have been working on the Silent Hill games. They forgot what the whole series is about. It was about a cult in the first game. That's all, and then they keep going back to Silent Hill 2.
Yeah, Silent Hill 2 is. They feel like if it's not the surrealist fog town, then they can't exactly. Then it's not a Silent Hill game. But I think there's a really fine line between being trapped in the series tropes and archetypes, and working with them and working with what works in the series to really satisfy fans and newcomers.
Yeah, so that's just my 2 cents on that, and I'm glad you're enjoying Halo. So I look forward to reading a possible review from you if you ever get the chance to write one.
Well, I'm in the process of writing.
I look forward to reading more on it, and just your thoughts on the overall product itself, if it lives up to the standards of the Halo series. I'm glad to see that. It seems to be very much apparent that it does. So I'm very glad to hear it. I guess before we end up wrapping up the show, I know it's we've gone a little long here. I know it's a little late for you, but we'll go ahead and just wrap up our kind of quick thoughts, kind of summarize a little bit. We didn't talk about the full Batman Superman trailer, and also the thing that occurred at the Game Awards with Kojima. Those are the 2 main things that we wanted to I wanted to cover before we end up going.
Okay. I'll be happy to talk about this.
Yeah.
First and foremost, for the Video Game Awards hosted by Jeff Keighley, it was I never thought this would reach this public proportions, where Hideo Kojima, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain won for Best Action Game of the Year.
Right.
And Hideo Kojima was supposed to come up and accept the award. Hideo Kojima had planned it with Jeff Keighley and his people. And then Hideo Kojima was told by Konami's legal team that he wasn't allowed to represent Konami there, so he couldn't go get the award. And people were just booing at the sight of it. And even Jeff Keighley, who is usually very neutral, he's very business friendly, and he doesn't usually get involved in siding with politics or studios. He even stood up and said, "Yeah, this is really disappointing, since Kojima really deserved it. He was in contact with us all the time, and even he was like, yeah, fuck Konami."
He gave it those eyes without saying it. He pretty much said what everyone was feeling at that point. It was just it was ridiculous at what had occurred. It's just probably this is probably the worst PR move I've ever seen, and it's like it reiterates that Konami does not give a damn what people think of them, and it really solidifies just their downward spiral, and just anything in terms of what they're doing in terms of the gaming industry. So I would have to say, and CH is back.
Yes, hello. Hi, I'm sorry. You were saying Konami reiterates that Konami.
Yeah, it reiterates that Konami just does not give a damn about the gaming industry anymore, and it really solidifies a lot more. It really solidifies a lot more than really not really going to be supporting anything they put out. Honestly,
they are just petty. They don't care, and it's confusing that a business would burn this many bridges so publicly, and so just so brazenly.
And they've always been really kind of bad for the last few years, even before this whole Kojima thing. I know there's been a lot of discussion about them. I know Jim Sterling has talked about them prominently in his series. Talking about how they're the worst to deal with in terms of PR. They never get back to you on emails, and we know now why, because they're always changing their emails. But they always send out their game copies on time or not at all. It was
developers who are shamed by are forced to clean toilets And it's just like, this is medieval shit. What the fuck are these guys doing? And it's nothing makes me happier than seeing these sons of bitches taken down a peg, and doing it publicly like that. I'm happy that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone had the right to know what has going on. It's crazy, and I'm sure it was shit. I'd be embarrassed to be a part of Konami at this point. It's that bad.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was embarrassing for Kojima for having this happen to him too. I mean, I know he's very passionate about Metal Gear Solid series and just kind of what people think about his game, and I'm sure he would have been more than happy to be a part of the awards. Although maybe the awards are the awards are just maybe not. Yeah, they're pretty much fluff. I know they're not really important to us, the viewers, in terms of it, but I'm sure it means really a lot to developers to kind of get some recognition. Because I know, not even working in the industry, I know that just kind of working for a company in some shape or form, it does help a lot, the morale, to kind of feel recognized, because you do so much work and sometimes you don't feel like you get a lot of appreciation in return. And I'm sure it'll be the same feeling for Kojima. Like, he's very passionate about the games he makes, and he's very critical too on the games he makes. So I'm sure all the praise he's been getting for Phantom Pain, he would have been ecstatic to accept the award. Although it doesn't seem too much big for us, but I'm sure it was a big deal for him.
It absolutely, but if there's a silver lining in all of this, it's that people now know how full of shit Konami is, because they said, like, oh no, Kojima is on vacation from our company for legal reasons. I guess they have to say that he's on vacation, so he doesn't, so he can't work on another project. But then they tell him that he can't do this for their own company. And so they're just not only huge assholes and liars, but they are. I mean, like they've lobotomized themselves. Did they just like stick their heads in microwaves and set it on high? I am so flabbergasted by this. It's like the people working there are actively embracing bad publicity.
Yeah, I mean, and we thought EA was bad at one point. They got nothing on what's been going on here.
I got to apologize for EA. Just like, I never thought that you guys, you do some underhanded stuff, but never this bad. You never just like openly have just enforced policy of disrespect for the people who make your names known. Like I've never seen this in my life. In the 21st century, I never thought that this would it's just a disregard and absolutely dehumanizing humiliation of a business's own just inner circle.
Yeah.
And public icons like this.
It's terrible. It's I mean, in Kojima is like very very beloved developer, much on par with like Miyamoto. And
Miyamoto, Iwata,
yeah,
Peter Molyneux, David Cage, Ken Levine, Jade Raymond.
I don't know about I don't know about David Cage though.
David Cage, the auteur.
Jade Raymond. Yeah, I could see, because she's been a part of a lot of games, mainly Assassin's Creed. I know she was working on a new Splinter Cell. Well, she was working on Blacklist before she left Ubisoft, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I mean, it's terrible what happened, and it's insane to me how they've fallen this much. I remember back in the 90s that Konami, whenever I saw that Konami logo on any game, I knew that was a quality game. With Castlevania and just all of these other properties from Konami that they're just letting go by the wayside because they're too stupid to know what they got and not doing anything with them. Bunch of dicks. It's pretty much summarizes them. I mean, it's.
I would never say that. Like, I would like honestly say, like, okay, well, maybe there's this, that, or another reason for that this would happen. Like, maybe there was a bad setup, and they're like, no, these guys are just freaking assholes. And I really do hope that Well, Konami, everyone in the top brass who have been treating their artists with such disrespect gets everything that's coming to them negative.
Yeah, all that karma there. All that karma.
All that karma.
But yeah, I just wanted to touch upon that real quick, and I'm sure everyone has the same sentiments as to what occurred, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. I mean, I love to get some book or kind of documentary on just how everything
it's the heart
happened.
Of darkness.
The Kojima Gate.
Oh gosh, this is just the absolute. This is like madness. It is like Cambodian like village burning insanity, like during Vietnam, which like just makes you go crazy type of madness. And I genuinely don't know what to say. I really think that maybe like years from now we'll be able to look back and laugh at this, but we're laughing about this now, but just like, how in the world was this allowed to happen?
There's no coming back from this. It's like really nothing they can do to come back from this. I don't even think they want to come back for this. So
well,
they've been dead for a while. This just kind of solidifies them as a video game company in general. I know that I don't know how much they really rely too much on the pachinko machines, but that's kind of the route they're taking now with their business model and going to the mobile gaming market. So I, for one, will not be supporting anything they put out from this point, really.
Yeah.
So that's our sentiments on it. But real quick before we go, what did you? Speaking of insanity, what did you think of that Batman Superman trailer?
I liked the first half.
Yeah, I think that's a sentiment we can all share.
I really did enjoy the sparring between Bruce and Clark, where we see them meeting at a party and then discussing the Batman vigilante and how he relates to Superman, and kind of Bruce cutting a little bit close to the bone in terms of his remarks. And I liked that because that gave me shades of one of my favorite scenes of all time, which was the Avengers argument scene in the first Avengers film, where people were they were getting in each other's faces, and it was like this constant one-up of actually good points.
Yeah, very reminiscent of that scene in the Avengers that they kind of took with liberties in that first minute or so of the trailer, and then we get Jesse Eisenberg that completely ruined that whole trailer for me. Cat's giving a thumbs down as we speak. Like we talked about, Bryan Cranston missed opportunity for Lex Luthor.
Bryan Cranston would have made for that traditional Lex Luthor.
Tread lightly, Clark.
I am the danger. He would have made a great Lex Luthor in that traditional sense of the role. He was very threatening, and I wonder if they're going to reveal that he's kind of has this jokey, kind of lighter persona, and then he turns into someone very vicious very quickly. I
like to believe that, but I mean, we'll have to see the movie to find out. And I mean, there's always, even with this, even with what they showed, there's still a lot more speculations as to what could happen in the movie. I know that they really showed a lot, and the editing didn't help a lot. I showed you an edited version that someone made that it was 10 times better than that original trailer was. If you see that edited one, you don't see the original one. It's gonna ruin your experience a little bit. They showed too much, and it kind of summarized the whole movie real quick for you. And it was just not edited well. That was my main problem. It was not edited well, and the music didn't fit the scenes they showed.
I have to say, regardless of the inclusion of story and humor, and I like the fact that they included humor. Because it's like, okay,
I know that's always been the thing of contention with DC movies, that they wanted to be kind of more what was the word I think they said,
gritty, serious,
more gritty and serious. Yeah.
But the thing is that like there was rumor that they had a no joke policy, and I will tell you this: Life is Beautiful is a movie about a Jewish father and son trying to survive a Nazi
a concentration camp, and it is more funny and uplifting than Man of Steel. It is absolutely. I mean, it is so absolutely devoid of anything even resembling, not even just humor or comedy, but just any feeling of uplifting, motivator, of just the idea of things in any respect are going to be good. And it just, like, every time it attempts to try to have like a very enthralling, thrilling, positively thrilling scene, it comes off as false. And, you know, I like this time around they're actually including comedy to some extent, but like Lex Luthor interrupting. Okay, I thought that was okay. It was cute. It was funny. But it kind of went on. I wanted to tell about before. The editing is so weird in this film, or at least in this trailer, because it goes on for far too long. It holds over shots that should be like 3-second shots and not like 6-second shots. And
Yeah.
it's just so noticeable.
It felt like it was someone. It was like someone's first time editing a big budget trailer. That I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they were thinking when even releasing this trailer. The previous trailer was so much a lot better edited than this new one we got revealed this past
Doomsday?
week.
Do you want to talk about Doomsday?
Doomsday, we don't even know if it's really Doomsday. I know it's supposed to be.
Oh, it's freaking Doomsday.
I know it's supposed to be Doomsday because they're going off the possibility of what we've seen resurrecting Zod's body or genetics in some way to making Ninja Turtles villain. No, it ain't Doomsday, man. That ain't Doomsday.
I mean, it. Okay, so regardless of, this was something that was okay. So I think the design is stupid, not only because it doesn't look like the comic, but it just doesn't look interesting.
It's not. No, it's not interesting at all, and it just doesn't. I don't know. I don't know if I really want to be interested in a big CGI fest with that involved. And we'll have to see. I know there's there's still a lot of speculation too as to if this is the end, is near the end of the film. It could be in the middle, for all we know.
It could be. It's probably not, because the fact that, like, Batman v Superman, it's shown that Superman and Batman have worked out their differences enough to join together forces to take down Doomsday, which I think is going to be the big third act twist. And okay, so the problem with the Doomsday character, okay, so Abomination in the Incredible Hulk film, he didn't look, he wasn't the greatest villain of all time. He was kind of bland, but I like the design of how his bones were outstretched as much as his muscles to make him look very grotesque. And this just looks like a Peter Jackson design for a troll that was just rejected,
Right.
From the Hobbit films, and it feels like there's way too many weird little things that, as the guys at Double Toasted have remarked, that all the tension between the Batman-Superman fight, regardless of whether or not it's in the middle or in the end, is just completely negated, because you know they're going to be fine at the end of the fight, and they're going to join forces at the end of their fight. And it's just such a very weirdly put together trailer, because you think they would have been smarter about this. I think they heard the criticism that they're not showing enough, and then they decided to go overboard.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I'm also the biggest thing that no one's talking about that I'm really worried about is Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. She looks fine in the part, absolutely, but notice how in all the trailers she doesn't talk. And that makes me think, ooh, boy, they are really worried about letting her say anything in terms of acting. And according to some reports that, because she's not a native English speaker, that they had to write that role for her around that they really had to work with that. And that makes me even more worried.
Right.
So how do you feel about the film?
How I feel? Well, I'll have to wait and see, because the editing of the trailer didn't necessarily help get me too excited. I was already excited after the watching the edited trailer I showed you, and also even
that was great.
Even before, like the previous trailer, this is a hell of a lot better. And if I watch it again, I'll still be more. I still get excited to see it, even though there are some things revealed that maybe I probably wouldn't have liked to reveal. We kind of knew, we kind of speculated, but I still would have liked to keep that room of mystery behind it, even though we were kind of already speculating what may have happened. But I think a lot of it had to do. It definitely hurt a little bit of the enthusiasm was just the way it was edited. I'm sure it'll definitely maybe come off a little bit better in terms of the context, especially with a lot of the scenes that we saw. Definitely probably will be a lot better in context than just seeing that not well done trailer that was put together. So I'm very much reserving judgment to see how it pans out when it comes out, and we still don't even know exactly from the rumors how they're gonna introduce Aquaman in this. I feel like there's so much going on, and I don't know how they even fit this in like a 2.5 hours.
Oh my god! Okay, so it's really worrisome that not only do they seem to have so much of the film already presented in terms of kind of a lot of the story beats, but this has had such a confusing development, because at first this was going to be a Man of Steel sequel. Just like a straight-up Man of Steel sequel, and it was confirmed by Zack Snyder's interview back in like 2012, before The Dark Knight Rises was released, that, oh no, Man of Steel is going to be its own thing, and then WB's going to have Justice League be its own movie, so we're going to have different actors for Superman, Batman, and so forth. And then WB, after Man of Steel released it, said, the hell you will. We're going to... we see that Avengers money, and we want more of this. Of the crossovers. So it's like, okay, so it's a Batman and Superman movie. No, wait, it's a Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman movie. No, wait, it's a Justice League prequel. No, wait, it's the Justice League. Especially with, like, apparently it's been confirmed that The Flash is going to be in there. Ezra Miller, I think, is going to be playing him.
Apparently, yeah. Dude, I think there was a shot in there that may have revealed something relating to The Flash. Even like, possibly with this different desert suit, which maybe is a nightmare scene or nightmare. Honestly, like, so many speculations on just even the other little parts besides like the big parts of the main villain, which, I mean, it'll definitely be Lex Luthor as the main villain, but that would just be more of the muscle Doomsday than anything else. I really hope there's more to this than just that. If not, they showed too much. They should have just kept it at that teaser footage of Superman unmasking Batman, and that would have been all I really needed until March.
Yeah,
that's really all they should have shown, or that other edited trailer I showed you. That would have hyped me up more.
That edited trailer would have been absolutely perfect, especially with the ending of that edited trailer had the Doomsday so it might not be Doomsday. Regardless, they could have just had that edit done with the last Age of Ultron trailer for the Avengers Age of Ultron film. It had a 2-second scene of the Vision opening up his eyes, and that was the scene teased. That was it. You didn't know what role he played. You didn't know kind of how he was fit into all this, and they could have done that if they had Doomsday too. Of just or depending on who he is when he comes out, and of just they hear a roar, and then it's what is this? And then that's the big question everyone has going into the theaters.
It left you with suspense and an air of speculation and mystery in a sense, and just like a lot of the official one just didn't have any of it. They just pretty much laid everything, all their cards on the table,
and just. Some of the stuff was so on the nose, just like the comedy of Mark Zuckerberg telling Clark Kent "Wow, that's a strong grip. You should not definitely pick a fight with this guy." It's yes, we get it. He's Superman. we got that 2 trailers ago.
Yeah, they kind of did a little bit of that in the older Superman films. Maybe that's a little bit of a callback, but. It is it's very interesting to see how this will pan out. I really hope it's it turns out well. I mean, especially for what they have planned ahead, and hopefully everything works out and we get something a little bit more less on the nose or more revealing in future films.
I really hope I'm wrong.
In terms of the trailer, I really hope so too. I mean, I want to go in there and be surprised at something big. Well, we'll just have to see. I'm more excited to see the solo Batman film with Ben Affleck, to be honest.
Yeah.
I even from the snippets we saw of him taking out thugs, I really want to see more of that than just a big CGI fest, possibly with Doomsday Fight. I'm not too big on that CGI fest. It seems like it may be a little bit. Some of the footage we've seen is a little bit more a lot of CGI going on there than it needs to be.
The bigger, for me, I'm really worried about how the hell they're going to balance this thing, because it's depending on how they which protagonists they have as kind of the center point or the anchor point. They're going to have to do some very clever writing for the story, especially if they're going to have. They seem to have showcased that at the end it's going to be the trio of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman together. Does that mean they're going to be writing them as the main kind of storylines, or is it going to be Batman? Is it going to be like mostly Superman's story and then Batman interspersed? And I'm not entirely confident in Chris Terrio's work, because he wrote Argo, which was a good biopic. It is. I don't feel like it was one of the best scripts of all time, nor was it that good of an ensemble film. I
haven't seen it, but I get the hint. It's a little bit overrated.
It's not terrible, but it's like, okay, for instance, Chris McQuarrie wrote The Usual Suspects, and that was his first screenplay ever to make to theatrical film, and that's one of the best crime films of all time. And that was kind of like the one-hit wonder of like, wow, that was incredible. Like, what's he going to do next? And then he kind of had a string of misfires, and then he started to come back with like Edge of Tomorrow. And with Chris Terrio, he wrote Argo, which was an okay movie. It was good. You know, mostly it was kind of the performances and kind of the tension that solved it all. But he's never done sci-fi or fantasy, and it's a vastly different area than a biopic. And it not only in terms of kind of the magic or laser beams or whatever. It's literally like you're dealing with different archetypes and tropes and different expectations for that film. And I don't know if hiring him was the best move. I mean, it's certainly better than Goyer, like of a chimpanzee who had an arrow go through his head would probably be better than Goyer. But it certainly was this. Terrio is. I really hope he's. I mean, obviously from that dialogue with Clark and Bruce at the beginning, it's much natural, more natural sounding. It's a lot more layered. It's a lot more interesting. I kind of hope it goes throughout the entire thing, because when Lex says, "If man won't kill God, then the devil will," it's a little worrying right there.
Yeah, I could definitely see. Your sentiments on that. We'll have to see until the release comes. It can't come any sooner, because I'm very excited to go see it.
Oh yeah,
and we'll kind of give our final thoughts on it.
I hope I'm wrong.
I just hope it's a good film. That's all that kind of more interested in it. It's very. I never thought in my lifetime we would get to see Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in the same movie together. I thought it would be like. I mean, we almost had one like years ago with the
I Am Legend.
Not the I Am Legend. It was the George Miller movie.
Justice League movie. Oh my gosh! Can you imagine how awesome a George Miller Justice League movie would be?
Nowadays, yeah, I could see that happening. At the time where they were announcing that so soon and so sudden, I wasn't too sure about that. Armie Hammer as Batman, although he maybe could pull it off now. He's definitely
Not anymore.
As evolved or as an actor since that time, and I don't know about Adrian Brody. Since the OC fame has died off, I don't know if he could really be called back to do the Flash.
I don't know either, but I would have said, like, dude, the guy who wrote Babe, Pig in the City, is going to do Justice League movie. You bet your ass I'm in.
Or Happy Feet.
Happy Feet. They got really deep into that movie. They got really deep into production into that movie, and then just like, oh, we're not doing it anymore.
Yeah, I know. They got so deep that there's some photos showing of what the actress who was playing Wonder Woman looked like with the costume and everything. It was that deep in there into production. I'd definitely like to see an attempt, or maybe a helm by George Miller. I know there's rumors. There's always I know there's been rumors of him directing a Man of Steel 2 or all this other thing that's been going on, but we won't know for sure until it actually is announced. But we'll have to see. CH. I very hope that this is a good film and it's a good starting point for some competition for Marvel and not have them monopolize the superhero movie genre and team up movies in general. I like to see some diversity, and DC has so much great. So much great characters they can make into a movie. Even like not even necessarily DC direct. Anything from Vertigo titles.
I absolutely agree. I agree 10,000. Why The Last Man? Let's not forget one of the best superhero movies of all time, and although some people would probably argue against it, V for Vendetta, where that was a Vertigo release, and they WB got the right people behind that to make it just a fantastic film. And I know they have it in them to do more of them. I would love to see Animal Man. I want to see Zatanna. I want to see Static. As much as Batman is cool, we need a break from him every once in a while.
And let's throw the Doom Patrol in there.
Doom Patrol, baby. Let's bring out a Trigon or Etrigan. There's just like so many interesting ways they could go, and I feel this is more like WB not really knowing how to adapt DC properties in live action space, because they've done incredibly well for the animated side of things. I mean, Justice League Unlimited. They had Young Justice work a lot. They do really well if they have the word justice in there.
Yeah, it seems baffling to me that I know it's two different kind of mediums, and in movies or animated movies, but it baffles me how they're not able to bring in the same quality as their animated films as their live action films. Yeah, Under the Red Hood is one of the great adaptations of a storyline from a Batman comic, put into any form of media out there is quite frankly one of the best, and also they I say what you will, it was a good and close attempt to adaptation as you can get with Frank Miller's Dark Knight animated movie.
Supremely. I was really surprised at how dark they still were.
Yeah, it's as good as you could get. It's probably like one of the darkest you could get animated movies from Warner Brothers. And I always give high praise to Mask of the Phantasm being one of the best Batman movies ever made. Animated movies, or movies in general. I put that on the list. So we'll go ahead and wrap up this discussion when we get CH back on the line. CH on the hotline.
Hi, I hate my internet provider.
We're almost done. So,
as you were saying, The Dark Knight Returns, just as dark as you could get.
Yeah, as dark as you could get, and I'd consider it. I consider Mask of the Phantasm being their upper echelons of like Citizen Kane of Batman anime movies.
Mm-hmm. Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker was great.
Hell, why don't we get a Batman Beyond movie? Come on.
I'm telling you, Terry McGinnis is a great character that I think they should really incorporate.
He doesn't get much love.
Because it's like they have that weird stipulation, like he's from the future series, therefore he can't be in the present series, which is like, okay, whatever. One of my favorite, just one of my favorite Superman stories of all time, which is Superman versus the Elite, which is once you get past I admit I had some problems with the art style, but as soon as I got into it, it's like, yeah, I actually really dig this. It's a fantastic story, and one that I really hope would have set the tone for a live-action Superman film, because it was a very intellectual, thought-provoking morality play about Superman's inability to kill, and how that kind of feeds into the perception of him and whether or not that's actually a good thing. And that was just fantastically done.
Hell, a lot of ideas from All-Star Superman could definitely be used in the cinematic universe, which hasn't been really touched upon.
One of the best scenes of any Superman media was like that one page of like 8 different panels of like a woman who from the All-Star Superman series is like that woman who's about to commit suicide, and Superman just says like, no, it's Jenny, your therapist really was stuck in traffic. Someone does care about you. Like, you don't need to do this, and just stayed there with her. Like that was like a really just a brilliant scene, very simple and very like that. I feel like the Man of Steel I hope it's different for Batman versus Superman. Okay, so I'm sorry. Let me try to say that again. For the interpretation of Superman in Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice,
or Zack Snyder's Superman.
Zack Snyder's BVS. I hope that Superman is well written. In Man of Steel, it felt like they didn't know what to even do, because they didn't want to make the Superman Returns kind of uplifting, always vigilant, not patriotic, but optimistic superhero. And they didn't, because like people wanted more action, and people liked the darker Nolan films. And it just like they tried to combine those two. They didn't know what they wanted. They just know what they didn't want, and that's what made this character. And so I don't understand, because DC usually is so good in terms of adapting to other media. Like for television, they're doing really well. For video games, I mean, the Arkham series, despite my problems with Arkham Knight, they've done very, very well.
Yeah.
The animated TV series and the animated movies are great. And just like what Marvel's problem is for their animated stuff, DC's problem is for their live action stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need to get together and exchange some tips on how to make that work.
Need to swap some notes.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be our little summarization of what we thought about the trailer. I'm still looking forward to the movie. I wish I had unseen that trailer and kind of stuck with that edited.
Still kept the height level.
Yeah, I'm still excited for it. It's just that trailer showed too much. It was a perfect example, and I thought they were going to stick with this idea of not showing too much, and I don't understand. I mean, they've shown us quite a lot, but not enough to the point where we're spoiled on like the summarization of what could be the entire movie. But at least they showed us enough to get an idea what the hell the movie's about, and that's about it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
I don't know what this mentality is on the showing too much in these trailers these days.
I don't know what it is. And it's like Terminator Genesis or Terminator Salvation even. But there just seems to be this need to explain a lot of the plot to get people interested, but then they're not surprised when the movie comes out to get them in. I mean, it's like I feel like they're really shooting themselves in the foot in terms of showcasing this. Like if they kept just like the first half of the movie, where of the movie trailer, where it's just like, okay, it's Clark Kent and they're debating kind of the theology, and Batman implying that like the reason why he's got to stop him is because of what happened. Like that part I thought was great. And if they just like for the rest of the trailer was just like a montage of action scenes and set pieces or like locations and characters together, that would have been great. That would have been like, perfect. You guys set it up. This was just like overdoing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let us know what you thought ladies and gentlemen, about the trailer and or anything else we discussed on today's episode of Bloody Thumbs, episode 173. So, with all that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap up the podcast for today. This feels like a long one.
Oh yeah,
we had a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we did, but I'm glad we did.
Yeah, same here. I'll go ahead and just summarize real quick with you guys. As always, you can send us a voicemail through the BloodthumbsPodcast.com. I really would love you guys to use this feature because it's definitely going to give us a little showcase and more. It'll give us a bit more of a test drive to see if you guys want to use it. I think it's a great feature. I hope you guys use it eventually, and just leave us a voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want, you can ask a question, and we'll go ahead and play it on the podcast whenever we receive it. Check us out on Twitter. I'm at Splinter47, and CH is at CH_Gorog. Check us out on iTunes. Maybe I'll get on Stitcher. Maybe put the podcast on Stitcher Radio. I don't know how many people really use it. I know it's very popular for, I guess, Android users. I don't know. I mean, I can access the podcast, just fine on my Android phone through iTunes, through like a podcast app, so I don't necessarily need to put it up on Stitcher, but I'll confirm my sources elsewhere to see if this will be a good investment to put some time into putting it up there. We'll see. Beyond that, just be on the lookout for possible collaboration with the BGB.com fellas and doing our roundtable discussion, summarize the year in video games, and that'll be kind of all we're going to have on tap for this year, leading into 2016. Hopefully everything works out well. We'll be able to continue. Maybe I'll be streaming some more when I'm off for like a month, so keep a lookout on that. And through everyone's support, we appreciate it as always. We'll see you on the next one. If you don't have anything else to add, CH, we'll go ahead and wrap up this spectacular.
Let's wrap it up like a Christmas gift.
Wrap it up like a Christmas gift. So thank you everyone for listening. This has been episode 173 of Bloody Thumbs Podcast. I'm Splinter47 signing off.
This is CH Gorog, missing my comedic timing, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, night, or whenever you're listening to this.
I know, it sounded like I was going to say something else, but I just kind of stopped myself.
No worries, man. And catch us all on our social media sites, as Splinter said, for all the different websites, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, we definitely look forward to it. Check out our Jessica Jones review, and also CH's separate review and commentary on the whole season as a whole. And if you haven't already, check out the Hearts of Stone DLC review for The Witcher, if you haven't bought it already, which I'm sure you have, so I don't need to tell you it's a good DLC.
Oh yeah.
But take it easy, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
See you later, everybody.